Welcome to City Council. I appreciate you guys being here, and thank you to those that watch online. We have such a good-looking group of red shorts out there. Red shorts? Shirts. Our Stampede board, which we'll all see later, but you guys look so sharp. Anyway, so as we begin this evening, Mike Rice is with us, and Mike is with Lakeview Bible Church. And Mike, thank you for opening us in prayer, and then we'll have you lead us in the pledge. So let's all stand.
Let's pray. Father God, we come before you on this beautiful day. It's a day that you have made, and it's a day that you have ordained, and we are thankful for the opportunity to live another day. Father, it is our privilege to come before you and meet your word and pray for our city leaders. Father, our city is growing like some of us have never seen before. People flooding in. And Lord, we thank you for that growth. The people who are coming, they see the life that we have here in Nampa. It's a good life. And they desire that. But with growth comes growth pains. And Lord, I don't envy the job of this city board here that they have before them, the many things that weigh heavy upon a person's heart. And so I just pray for wisdom and discernment as they lead us. And Lord, that you would grant them your grace as we face the challenges that face us today. So Lord, we give this to you. We pray your wisdom and your discernment. We pray your blessing on this meeting. We pray your blessing on the city of Nampa and its people. Lord, that our eyes and our hearts would be drawn to you. And that, Lord, we would serve you as you have called us to. So, Lord, we give this meeting to you tonight. We pray your blessing, and we ask it in our Lord Jesus' precious name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank
you so much for being here, and thank you, Mike, for being a key part of our community. It's appreciated. Thank you. Okay, this evening, as we get started, Rick Hogaboam is out of town and unable to be here this evening, and we'll start with roll call.
Rodriguez?
Here.
Bruner?
Here.
Levi?
Present.
Haverfield?
Here.
Skog?
Here.
We do have one proposed amendment to the agenda, and that is to remove item number 1.5A off the consent agenda, and this was to authorize staff to advertise a request for qualifications for the 3rd Avenue North and West Industrial Road intersection improvements and initiate a contract negotiations with the select consultant. So we will be removing that. Council, do you have any other amendments to the agenda? Okay, seeing none, I would stand for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call.
Bruner?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Skog?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
So we have a couple proclamations this evening, and these handsome guys here. So you don't have any women with you tonight, but you have one very special lady who's celebrating a birthday. Sitting back there, happy birthday, Renee. It's great to have you here on your birthday. It's just what you want to do. Yeah. So we have a proclamation for Snake River Stampede Days that are coming. And as soon as I find my notes here, we'll read it. And then Curtis is going to be here, I believe, to speak to us in just a second. So, whereas in 1915, the first Nampa Harvest Festival, also known as Snake River Stampede, kicked off the first rodeo event. And whereas since that date in 1915, the Snake River Stampede Rodeo has become one of the premier rodeos in the state of Idaho and the United States. And whereas the Snake River Stampede attracts over 60,000 spectators each year from across the state and around the world that enjoy the rodeo in Nampa, Idaho. And whereas the Snake River Stampede sponsors one of the largest all-horse parades that is attended by community families, horse lovers, and whereas the Snake River Stampede is considered one of the top PRCA indoor rodeos in the nation. And whereas our community gets to observe over 700 world-ranking contestants competing for over $450,000 in prize money. Whereas the rodeo is celebrating its 104th year as the wildest, fastest show on earth. I therefore, Debbie Kling, Mayor of the Nampa City, Idaho, do hereby proclaim July 8th through the 20th, 2019 in the city of Nampa as Snake River Stampede Days. And we encourage our citizens to promote this exciting community celebration by wearing Western apparel. And so we're excited. I just want to say thank you to the board and to the work that goes into this, because it's a very important event for our community. Curtis, come on up here.
Well, we appreciate that from the board and all your support, your attendance over the years. It looks like we had a couple of challenges this year with some guy named Brooks or something coming to Boise on our Friday and Saturday night. But right now our ticket sales are up over last year. Our purse will probably break a record purse this year, over 450. I think last year we were 452, and so this year we're above that. Our contestants right now, we have 731 that are entered right now, and so we're still hoping for the best. And we really appreciate your proclamation, and this is the first time in years we've been able to do this, but thank you very much, and thank you again for what you're doing for the city of Nampa. But sitting up there, somebody said, are you going to stay for the whole thing? And I said, you know, we'll probably take off. I need to go buy her dinner somewhere. What do you want to do on your birthday? Not go to a city council meeting. Nothing against you guys. But I used to sit on this front row for many years, and then I'd think, when can we go? When can we go? But honestly, it's a great honor to be part of the city of Nampa. And of course, we love we try to, on our economic impact and just an estimation of what we had in the last few years of what we give back to the community and the service clubs and so forth. We're over $500,000 locally that we spend. We try to keep it local. And that estimated on economic impact is about $11 million a year. So in that 2-week period, that's restaurants, motels, clothing, everything that we have. So we're proud of that, and we're still hanging in there on the top. So thank you very much for what you do. It's an honor.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you do. And as I mentioned, I know it takes a ton of work. I mean, it's like a full-time job right ahead of the rodeo. And we as a community get to experience the benefit of this, something we can be very proud of because we have dedicated volunteers that are committed. Thank you so much for that. It's appreciated. And I'm excited.
Thank you. It's just, you got to keep the compliments on these guys down a little bit. Because if you don't, they can't get their hats on.
I will say one of the smartest things they did was hire you. How's that?
Thanks.
Our next proclamation this evening is a proclamation for an individual. And you guys can go ahead and step out. And I'm not sure if this individual is here tonight. I don't see Georgia Whiting here tonight. And is Diane Seward here? Okay, so this is a proclamation that they're going to put up on their website. And I thought if she was here, I'd mention it. It has to do with July 11th being Diane Seward's Appreciation Day as a long-term employee of Deal Insurance. So we won't read that one this evening. The next proclamation is Parks and Rec, and I think Jennifer is here that will speak in just a second. You can make your way up if you'd like to. So this is Parks and Recreation Month. And I tell you what, I am so appreciative to our team. Darren, thank you. Job well done. I don't know who else is here tonight from our Parks and Rec team, but Jennifer, you guys do an amazing job. Thank you for what you do, and thank you for bringing this to us so that we can proclaim this month as Parks and Rec Month. So Whereas parks and recreation programs are integral part of communities throughout this country, including the city of Nampa, whereas our parks and recreation are vitally important to establishing and maintaining the quality of life in our communities, ensuring the health of all citizens, and contributing to the economic environmental well-being of a community and region. And whereas parks and recreation programs build healthy, active communities that aid in the prevention of chronic disease, provide therapeutic recreation services for those who are mentally or physically disabled, and improve the mental and emotional health of all citizens. And whereas the parks and recreation programs increase a community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of a local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of business, and crime reduction. And whereas the parks and recreation areas are fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community. And whereas parks and recreation areas improve water quality, protect groundwater, prevent flooding, improve the quality of the air we breathe, provide vegetative buffers to development, and produce habitat for wildlife. And whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, and whereas the City of Nampa recognizes the benefits derived from the parks and recreation resources. I, Debbie Kling, Mayor of the City of Nampa, hereby proclaim the month of July 2019 in the City of Nampa as Parks and Recreation Month. Jennifer, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for letting me come and speak about this and talk to you a little bit. Yeah, as she stated, this is an initiative from the National Parks and Recreation Association that they've done federally, and we participate on a local level as well. So we appreciate you proclaiming this month in the City of Nampa as National Parks and Recreation Month. We do believe that Parks and Recreation has such great impacts to our community, both from a physical fitness standpoint, where people can get out, get active, play, to fostering new relationships and creating connection to nature. It improves our overall quality of life. So one of the things that we're doing to try to help highlight what we offer as Parks and Recreation is a Game On game board. So the theme this year from National Parks and Recreation is Game On. I brought little flyers. If you guys would like to take a look at them, I'll pass them out. But we're doing a game board. So we're encouraging kids and families to pick up a game board and go participate in the different activities. So go to Lakeview Water Park and just spend the day at the pool, or visit a pathway, or participate on one of our new playgrounds that we've just put in, because we've put in several recently. So it's ways for us to just help let people know ways that they can participate. We're also going to be doing an Experience Midway event at the end of the month, and we're going to be rolling that out this week to just let people know about our new Midway Park that's up and coming. We installed a new playground last fall, and so we want to highlight that playground that we have and talk to people about what's the next steps for that park. So that's coming up at the end of the month that we're going to be doing as well. So that's our promotion for the month, and thank you for proclaiming. If you guys have any questions or comments, I'd be happy to answer.
Mayor, thank you. I would like to say that we have really great staff in our Parks and Recs departments. I've worked with both of the departments, learning behind the scenes what they do and how they do what they do, and they're passionate about it. And I've also worked with them on some projects, and we have a great staff.
Thanks.
Are there any other comments? You do have a great staff, and thank you. Thank you so much, and yes.
Do you mind if I hand them out?
Thank you.
Thank you. So the next item on our agenda is where citizens have the opportunity to speak for 3 minutes on an agenda or non-agenda item. I'm not sure, Clay, I think there's a sheet back there. Do we have anyone signed up? We don't have anyone signed up this evening. So is there anyone here this evening that had intended to speak on an agenda or non-agenda item? And seeing none, the next item on the agenda are mayor and council comments. And I just sent Kristen for something off the printer, but while I'm waiting, this is a question for the council since it's easier to talk about it, and it has to do with our scheduling, our workshop. our council workshop on the 16th and 17th. We all have an invitation to attend the Rescue Mission Recovery Lodge grand opening that is on the 17th of July. And that is a very, very important item for our community, and I'm very excited that it's actually opening in Nampa. And the Boise Rescue Mission is opening that, and Sandy had indicated that she had wanted to step away, and I had told Bill Roscoe I couldn't attend, but then I realized that no one can attend, and it's so important. So my question for the council, I visited with Randy, and I believe on Tuesday we were going to start late, but I think we can start at 9 on, excuse me, Wednesday. Thank you. Wednesday the 17th. So the schedule Tuesday the 16th is when we start. We were going to start at 8, as long as I have that correct. Let's try to end at 4, because that night is the mayor's night at the rodeo that we're all probably going to, and it's going to be a tight time frame because I can't remember when it starts, but I think it may start as early as 5:30. So that's going to be a little tough. And so we'll get in, and what I was going to do is use an agenda style very similar to last year's agenda. And last year, we were almost done in the first day. The second day were additional departments that had not presented, and it was an opportunity for questions and discussion. So this year, I'm going to move, I think, 2 departments to the second day. We'll start at 9 and go till 11, and I'm going to send this all out, but really what I'm looking for, because I can't have an open, a serial meeting, publicly, I'm just asking for a nod so it'll help me be faster getting the schedule put together. Randy can't be here till 9, so the thought was if we started at 9 and went till 11, we take an hour-and-a-half break, we do the Recovery Lodge grand opening, we have lunch, then we come back at 12:30 and work till 4:30.
Madam Mayor, if the council was like me and would have put it on their calendar for June 17th, so I have had a full tour of this. I showed up there on June 17th.
Oh.
So, you need to have, those cobwebs help sometimes.
What part of your body was operated?
You were
I
early.
couldn't figure out why there weren't more cars there. Yeah.
Is there,
I'm okay with that.
are we okay with that schedule, pretty much? Okay, so I think that's what we'll plan on doing then, and then we'll get the schedule out. I didn't want to send it out to department heads until I talk to you guys. So I've really got it pretty well done. I'll send it out, let you guys see if it's going to work, and then we'll get it out to council and we'll be good to go. So actually what I wanted to mention, I've gotten a bunch of texts today, and we had some calls in the office about the Fox Business announcement today that Nampa again this year was rated, the way they put it, Nampa, Idaho is the best run city in the U.S. according to Wallet Hub report on best and worst run cities released. And they said if you want to live in a city with good leadership and good use of resources, a new report suggests that you should move to Idaho. Now this, I believe, is the 3rd year that we have received this. And I will say that what made me nervous as a new mayor is what if we stepped out of number 1. So I was very relieved, and I appreciated all the positive comments. It's interesting to read through the metrics that they use to determine this. Dave Beaters asked me how is it possible that Nampa is coming in number 1 and Boise number 3, and I'm just like, I'm so glad. It's awesome, and so we want to keep it that way. Anyway, I just thought that was, I was pleased to see that again this year, and we will continue to do our best as we do with the council, because it's us, right, working together to hopefully continue this trend that we've begun. Absolutely, and you're so right. A lot of hard work gets done out here. The budget that they refer to gets managed right here with this team sitting here at the table. So it takes everybody working together, and I feel like we have an amazing team, and I appreciate the work of everyone. So we're blessed with our leadership. So the next item on the agenda is agency. Yep, I'm sorry. I forgot to ask for council comments.
No, that's fine. And I was pleased to hear that as well, because I believe that's the 3rd time in the last 4 years that we've gotten that honor. But also on Forbes magazine, I'm not sure if you noticed that Nampa was rated number 1 in the country as far as top cities where home values are soaring. So Boise again came in number 3, but we are as far as past year changes and property values we're number one in the nation again, so in that. So that's, we're not a good kept secret anymore.
We're not. And then I have a question and I know we need to hurry, but is that good news or bad news?
Well, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and it depends if you're wanting to stay here,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
If you would
Thank
have
you for
bought
sharing
property a few years ago, I mean, this is the place to have bought it, so
Mm-hmm.
that's a good sign.
Thank you for sharing that, because I didn't know on that one.
That's on Forbes.
Okay, thank you. So was there any other council comments? Nope. Oh, I could do that, thank you. I almost, Clay, come up here, Clay, good grief. I appreciate so much for my brain. So I would like to introduce Clay Long. I think most of you have met Clay. Today is Clay's first day. And so Clay is new chief of staff with the city of Nampa, and it's great to have you here. And boy, this is with no warning whatsoever. Would you like to share just a tidbit about yourself and why you're here, why you want to be here?
Well, I'm excited to be part of the team and continue championing Nampa. Nampa's a little different sized town than where I grew up of 900, so it's a bit of a change. But I've enjoyed being with the school district for the last 4 years and advocating for making the community the best it can be. So I'm excited to be part of the city team now and continue doing that.
Awesome. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for him
No, thank you.
now that we put him on the spot?
Mayor,
Yes.
Clay, where did you grow up?
Genesee, right between Moscow and Lewiston.
Thank you.
Well, we're thrilled to have you here, and needless to say, there's a lot to do, and you've just jumped in with both feet.
So Mary, I do have one question. Did you play basketball at Genesee?
I did.
I thought so. Yeah, it's a good team.
Good guess.
I'll have to check your
Let me guess,
stats.
you were the center.
Got it.
We're kind of laughing because TJ is, I'm not sure, is she 6?
6'2" or 3", probably.
I don't remember, and you're 6, yeah.
Yeah. And then there's
Yeah, Kristen, is Kristen still here? So yeah, we've got this height difference going on in our office.
Well,
Feel
you
very
have a
short.
city league team here.
Yeah, Thank you, Clay. Okay, we don't have any agency or commission reports this evening. We do have staff communications. Tom Points.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I've got 3 items on the staff report today. First one is on our chip seal. We're 100% done with the chip seal itself. Now we're going and putting in thermoplastic and painting the roads. So just got a couple of photos to show you of the process and how it works. First they go in and crack, seal, and sweep it. Then they put down the oil and the chips. And then here's the chips. Then they come in with their rollers and sweep it. This is a residential area, so this is the first year we've done residential. Then they come in with this fog coat, which is a light application of oil, and it turned out real nice. This is the 1/4-inch chip here on our roads. So they did a great job on that. And then we use a little bit bigger chip on our arterials. It's a 1/2-inch chip. So, but everything has turned out real nice this year. So just wanted to take a minute to show you what it looks like, and I know that Don would definitely entertain a ride on the chipper if you ever want to. He's done a couple of those now, so. So the next thing is our domestic water report. So every year we test our water. We had 550 water samples that we collected and tested for 75 contaminants. So we're organic, inorganics, microbiological contaminants. This report was also mailed out to the citizens. You have it in your packet, and had real good results. We're under the limits on all of those, and Nampa's fortunate to be in an aquifer that's a good aquifer, and we don't. It's easy to manage. There's other places where you have to do a lot more filtering, a lot more monitoring. So we're pretty fortunate there to have that. So that's good. And then our wastewater program. So you've got the construction report. Every quarter we come in and give you a report on construction. For phase 1, we're 92% complete, and we'll be wrapping up that in the fall. Another thing to note, we're putting in an application with Idaho Power for some energy savings, and we'll potentially get a incentive payment back of $51,000 for our Idaho Power. So we did some work on our dissolved oxygen control system, and we're qualified for this, and it also saves about 283,000 kilowatt hours per year, which is about 25 houses worth of power. So that'll save us some money on operating too. So we applied, well, we got some money back in October of 2017 for the same thing, different piece of equipment. We got 40,000 back in rebate back then, so that's good news. You got some pictures in your packet of the current construction of the centrifuge building being constructed and then our digester. Everything's in budget, and so unless has any questions, that's it for the staff report.
That's pretty easy. Good job.
Okay,
Thank you. I so appreciated having the opportunity to go out and have Don Barr give me a tour, and I maybe said that at the last meeting, but they do great work. I was very impressed with the work that was done on our chip sealing, so thank you. So we are ready for new business, and the first action item is actually, this is an additional appointment to the Compass Board. And the Compass Board is participation on the board is based upon population. As we reached over 100,000, it gives us an additional board position. And as I put in here, I actually was recommending possibly that we have Tom Points as our Public Works Director fill that extra board position. Caldwell has 2 seats. One is the mayor, one is the Public Works Director. And I realized that currently Tom is an alternate, but they're the ones that brief us and help us best understand. Victor Rodriguez also serves on the Compass Board. Before we make that decision, I do want the council to know that if there's somebody that really desired to serve and feels left out, they would certainly be welcome. So I'm not wanting in any way to bypass council. I just find that how we get briefed, actually we have a regular meeting with Jeff Barnes over transportation that briefs us on RTAC, which is the Regional Transportation Advisory Committee, and Tom that keeps us up to speed. But anyway, so it's out for discussion, but I think we do need a vote of the council as to what direction to go on this.
Mayor Kling, is it a voting position?
Mhm.
So we'll have 2 votes then?
We'll have 3.
3 counting Victor?
Mhm.
Oh,
We're
okay.
moving up from 2 to 3.
Right, the mayor.
Yeah, so myself and Victor are on the board currently.
Good.
Madam Mayor, I'm really tempted to nominate Rick Hogaboom only because he's gone.
I think he would like it too.
When I first looked at this, I thought, oh, we should have elected people in there. But then I thought about, Tom's knowledge is there, very important, and nice for you both to draw upon when you're in those meetings. So I think that's a good choice.
Mayor, and thank you, Bruce. Yeah, we do. We look back at him, he's right behind us most of the time sitting, and we can ask him the questions, he's right on the money. So unless one of the council members want to join Compass, the board, I would give it to them first, but I think Tom would be a very good choice.
Madam Mayor, I'll make the motion that we select Tom Points as the new Compass Board member for our city of Nampa.
Second? Third?
Question. So will there need to be an alternate then too, or not?
There probably will be. We'll need to switch since Tom is our current alternate.
Right.
That's
And
where you
so,
vote for Rick.
Rick's the alternate. I
Yeah.
think that'd be
well, could we amend the motion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's amend the motion to,
So who's going to, are we actually going to put a name on there? Or a council?
Rick?
We're going to put Rick.
Make him the alternate.
Right.
Rick can be the
I
alternate.
realize you guys don't sit next to him. I do. Okay. I will amend the motion that we, again, that we appoint Tom Points to the Compass Alumni Board, and the alternate will be Councilman Rick Hogaboom for the city of Nampa.
Thank you, Rick.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. So we'll let Rick know. I think Rick will appreciate it, actually. I have no question. We would not do that to a fellow council member if we didn't think they would enjoy it and be a good contributor. Sure we would.
We have no problem with that.
I should not speak on behalf of the council, right? Yeah. Okay, 5.2 on the agenda. This is an action item to authorize the mayor to sign a memorandum of understanding with the Downtown Business Improvement District.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The Downtown Improvement District, the BID, or the Business Improvement District, and the city have had a memorandum of understanding that was going for the last several years. Last year, the BID, the Business Improvement District, had most of their board turnover, and also they found that they weren't able to afford a staff person anymore. That was due to assessment rates not being raised for the BID since about the mid-90s, 95 or 96 was the last time assessments were raised. And then the ongoing increase in prices for things that they're supposed to provide, like flowers and removing trash downtown. And so the old MOU had the staff person all over in the memorandum of understanding that the BID hired. And so this new MOU that we're asking the authorization for mayor to sign is so that it takes out that staff person and reflects the new organizational structure for the BID with the city structure and how we work together to support downtown.
Mayor? Thank you, Robin. I understand that this is how we function together with BID in the city, but to take it a little bit further, I believe it was last year I had raised the question to the BID as far as how the assessments were done, that a business that was in there, the building was assessed for less than if the building was empty. Is that being restructured?
Yeah, they're looking at so when we look at the assessments for the BID, they're underneath the city structure. So to redo their assessments, they would have to go through an actual going out to those people who would pay assessments and get a majority of people to agree that they're increasing the assessment, and also that structure to be changed. So the vacancies paying more or paying less, all of that would have to go through that public process in order to be changed.
And that will in no way affect what we're doing here tonight?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Kling. Robin, is this, is the BID in full support, the businesses are in full support of the BID downtown?
I'm sorry,
Well,
could you, sorry.
Are there any stores or businesses that do not want to be a member of the BID? Or what is the amount of the stores in downtown that are and are fully committed to the BID?
Yeah, Councilman Rodriguez, the majority of the downtown businesses are part of the BID. There are some that choose not to be part of the BID, but they are assessed if they're in a geographic area. So the city is not assessed, but like a nonprofit is assessed. So if you're in the geographic area of the BID, you do have an assessment that comes to you quarterly.
And if they don't pay that, what's the next step?
Then they can go to collections.
Oh, I see. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So Robin, I have a couple questions that I didn't get asked earlier. And so one is the Visit Nampa mobile app. Help me, is that currently what we are using?
Yes, we
Right,
have a
okay.
current app, and that was just not called out in the old memorandum of understanding. And the city had a grant that they received from, I can't remember who it was from, but we had a grant to get this app made. And really the purpose of that was to be able to do those tours downtown, walking tours of downtown. And then there's a function that's really great where downtown businesses can put on events on the app. They can put on, there's a calendar of events they can put on if they have sales and things like that. So the app is really helpful to the downtown businesses.
So the cost to the city for that?
There is no cost.
There's no
because-
cost.
yeah.
And then it's not too overly burdensome for you to do quarterly updates
No,
to
it's
their,
not. No, it's just part of that assessment process. When we go through and do the quarterly billings, we would just update it, taking
that
off
time.
businesses that have gone out of business and businesses that have started anew.
And the BID board members do have their assigned blocks, right? And they're getting it done.
Yes, they
Right.
are.
So something that we did without a director is the BID board actually has assigned blocks that they are to walk. They're to provide the assessment to see who's in business, who's new, to keep economic development informed, which is really good. So that is happening,
Yes,
right?
it is
Okay. I have two more things that, one thing we talked about, and I thought maybe we pulled it off, but it's probably my memory. At the front, the city, under I, it says the city shall provide storage space in the Economic Development Department for use by the BID, but we know we're moving.
Yes.
So, but that's still in there.
Yeah, so this will be assessed annually, so when we assess it next year, we can take that part out. But for the time being, they are still using some of the storage in our storage area, in the economic
Okay.
development storage area.
My only concern is signing something that we know is changing that says we're providing storage for them, because we don't have storage for them as we move to the future, and we're going to have to deal with that. But it just needs to be clear. The other last one is K on here. It says that the city shall provide staffing and management of all aspects of Main Street program as part of the statewide Main Street. So we're in the budget process. Staffing isn't confirmed. So again, that shall provide staffing and management. Now, the management of the Main Street, but the staffing we can't guarantee at this point. It's
Right.
up to the council.
The spirit of that was to say that the BID isn't going to have management or any overseeing of this person if it's approved for Main Street. It would be the city to manage that person, and the city's role to have the organizational structure supporting that, not the BID.
Okay. So those are my only concerns, is that the actual language, as long as we understand that that is not confirmed yet, and that the storage will possibly go away. Okay. Councilman Haverfield, and then
Well-
Councilman Levi.
As I was looking at the city's responsibilities, city shall provide physical office space, where would that be at this
And
point?
it's in economic development in our
So-
offices.
Okay, now on 12th Avenue at the old First Interstate?
Currently at our offices on 12th, yeah, by the depot.
Okay, and that'll be relocating over to the other location. So it really would be a very similar setup to what's currently in place?
Yes.
Okay. That's the only real question I had, was just knowing that there would be that physical change, and maybe that's what you were covering too.
Right.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Levi?
So if someone is wanting to do something downtown with banners or something of that sort, is the procedure now that they go and approach the BID and then the BID notifies downtown, or how does that work?
No, this economic development will be taking on the role of managing the banners. The BID doesn't have the bandwidth currently to be able to manage banners there. It's pretty time consuming, so the economic development is taking that on.
Thank you.
And that will shift over to our Main Street coordinator when that person is on.
Yes.
Perfect. Are there any other questions?
Just one, Mayor. Robin, it also says on BID and the city, it says that the BID and city will contract a third party for the collection of garbage. What happens, what's going on now? How do they collect the garbage? And is the city paying for this already?
The BID pays for their own garbage collection downtown. That's part of what their assessments pay for. So it's just like an HOA. So you would pay into the BID, each of them pay this assessment, and the assessment pays for garbage collection, and the garbage collection is paid for by the BID.
Okay.
Yeah.
The city doesn't have to pay anything for that, though?
We have 3 garbages that are downtown that the boundaries of the BID are a little bit strange. There's one corner that gets cut off halfway on 14th, and then another one by Taco Time that's kind of strange. So there's a few garbages that we have that are, I think there's 4 garbages that the city pays for.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Mayor Kling. As a follow-up, the city providing maintenance for planners, the banners, those type of things, the coordination with the BID. Who currently is responsible for the old train depot in and around it and its landscape areas? Is that separate from the BID or the city?
it's not within the BID's district. So the train depot, it cuts off right in front of, it cuts off right there. That would not be part of the BID. So I'm assuming it's Union Pacific. I don't know.
Is it Union Pacific or the Canyon County Historical?
Yeah, or Canyon County Historical. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if there are no further questions, what would be the will of the council on this item?
Well, Madam Mayor, fellow council members, these kind of give me a gut check, but still, with the mayor's comments, that should be inserted into the document to make that clear, and then I would support it. So I'll make the motion to pass with the mayor's comments inserted by staff to make it clear.
I'll second that.
Is there any further discussion? Okay, roll call.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Levi,
Yes.
Haverfield,
Yes.
Brunner,
Yes.
Skog.
Yes.
Robin, thank you for that thorough report. It's appreciated. Item 5.3 on the agenda is an action item, and this is to declare 728 South Powerline Road as surplus property and authorize the staff to attempt sale of property in to contiguous property owners per the Federal Highway Administration.
So move as read.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Levi,
Yes.
Skog,
Yes.
Haverfield,
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
Item 5.4 on the agenda is an action item to authorize the mayor and public works director to sign a task order for scope of work for consultant services with CTA Architects, engineers for facility master plan for Fleet Services Division, Street Water Division, and Water Division. Jeff, hi.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Before you tonight is a miscellaneous professional services agreement with CTA Architects. So in 2014, there was a master plan that was conducted for streets and fleet. This is an update of that plan, also including the water department. All of those departments are nearing or at capacity. And according to the workforce plan that we did 3 or 4 months ago and submitted, there's growth coming. And so we wanted to get ahead of that. We had a budget amendment that was completed. That's actually for the bathroom facility. But there was funding available this year to complete the master plan so that we could get a jump on the planning in FY20. So we budgeted some money in FY20 so that the master plan will get completed in 19. We'd be able to have a footprint for a building or a next step. And then in 20, we could start to incrementally take some steps to use our existing facilities on site. One in particular improvement that we want to make is Fleets, for instance, wants to add a body shop, also a painting shop. We could save a lot of money that way. We send it all out right now. So there's things we could do to save money too as we expanded facilities. So with that, stand for any questions.
Mayor Kling. Did CTA do the original master plan?
Yes.
So it's just a continuation of the work scope that they were already provided then?
Yes.
Okay, is that that's why they were chosen, I assume?
Yes, correct.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question, Mayor. According to the basic services, it says phase 2, program synthesis and alternative concept development, $26,000, 53. Why is that?
So they will be looking out and looking at the data they use for how we are going to grow in the coming years, and some of the new data that we put in there as part of the workforce plan. And then they'll be interviewing staff. What are the staff needs? And all that data acquisition and interviews and concept design level will be put into a concept design to determine what we actually need. So
Well,
that's part of that.
I'm kind of concerned about that because you have, the mayor did a deep dive here, last year, and kind of figured out what we needed space. That's pretty much common sense. So now we're hiring somebody to give us what we already know. Is that correct?
The facility, for instance, the Councilman Rodriguez, the facilities on the street in the fleet department, for instance, the fleet building is maxed out. They can't fit a full fire truck in that facility. So there's needed improvements as we add additional. For instance, we added 12 new police vehicles last year, and we're adding units every year, including landscape equipment and things like that. So they're maxed out. The actual next step is what we don't have. So that this plan is to get us to a specific, do we need to build a building in this location? What year? We're strategizing incremental funding options, so that's not this lump sum. So, I think the general plan says, yes, we need to expand. This just goes into more detail for us to actually know what the next step is.
Okay, so a follow-up. So you don't think within our own engineers that we could come up with the phase 1, 2, and 3 by ourselves and not having to pay $48,000? Would that be okay, or does that be under scope?
This is we're in partnership with the facilities department. We're civil engineers here. This is architectural work as far as capacity and design. Oh, yeah.
There he is.
Patrick, would you like to
Patrick,
weigh in?
Sorry, Patrick, I didn't think you were still here.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, I'd like to answer that question. The deep dives that we did last year were a very high level, 30,000 feet. We know we need to grow here and there. This type of master plan is an architectural master plan. What it does is it evaluates our existing facilities, and then it also evaluates what our true growth is. Our growth estimates have increased significantly since the 2014 master plan. So that master plan is outdated. The other thing about that master plan is it envisioned mostly newer replacement buildings rather than a more frugal approach to let's see how we can repurpose the existing buildings and then move forward and then be very thoughtful about which new facilities we bring online and when we do that. So this type of master plan is really necessary in order to plan for the future, say 10, 15, or 20 years out, so that we can figure out how are we going to fund these capital improvements over time, whether some would be under the general fund and then some would be under the enterprise funds such as streets. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, yeah, you did. Thank you.
I do have another question. Is this the same firm, again, we just asked this question, that did the initial overview of the master plan?
Mayor, yes.
Could I ask a question then? Why do they need an on-site valuation if they actually have it from the initial one? Has something changed since their initial?
Yeah, so the initial plan, as Patrick was saying, was a new buildings everywhere else. Now we're paring that down using existing facilities. The workforce plan has showed different levels of growth, staffing with the streets funding plan, things like that. They will go in and interview staff. We'll look through our workforce planning on site, and they'll be looking at those existing facilities that Patrick was talking about, because we're going to reuse the warm shed. The plan that was in 2014 showed some of those buildings being demolished, but we're going to reuse some of those older facilities that are in good shape. That's part of the next one, which is the bathroom. We're putting a permanent bathroom in the warm sheds because that's going to be a permanent building on that. The 2014 plan, it showed it as being removed as one of the options.
So I have one other question. Is this a not to exceed, or is this confirming this payment?
This is a not to exceed.
Not to exceed. I did see the various. So I'm hoping there would be some savings because they already have the layout. They shouldn't have to be redoing that. And so I would look for savings there, because if they did the initial one, the buildings were already there. They should have the initial layout of the ground. Has something changed? I think Patrick wants to answer that question. I'm sorry.
Mayor and Council, in answer to that question, the 2014 plan was unrealistic. It actually showed raising the majority of the buildings on site. It did not, at that time, the direction was given, let's see what this would look like in 20 years. And so they did not survey the existing buildings. What they did is they used the existing space. They came up with a program and space needs for each program, whether it be fleet or the streets building or did is then they came up with all new facilities with costs for that. So what this is going to do is this is going to dive deep into what can we really save, because we don't want to throw away these buildings if we can, basically the skeleton and the shell are really good on them. And
I would have
they'll last another
assumed,
20 to 30
my
years.
assumption was that they had an initial footprint of the property and they didn't need to start from scratch. But what I'm hearing you say is we didn't have them do that. But let's look and see what we have in the initial 2014, because there's no reason to start from scratch, because there should have been an initial layout. Even though I understand what you're saying, and I think we've talked about that, the scope of work was very different last time than this time. But I'm just hoping they've got the initial, that we don't have to start from the very beginning all over again.
They have existing data.
Yep, that we can use. Thank you.
Mayor Kling, follow-up. Might as well stay up there, Patrick. The only thing that I'm concerned about is some of the costs that were included in this project. Let's say, for example, architect is $86 an hour. Architectural production is $63, so I assume that's putting it together, making the blueprints or whatever you call them. Then a project manager, $141 an hour. And this one I don't understand. It says architectural principal, $293 an hour. What the heck is that? Is there any places in this that we can cut? Because I have no idea what architectural principal is. And can you tell me?
Mayor and Councilman Rodriguez, these fees have been pre-negotiated in a captured contract that Public Works has with several architectural engineering firms in the valley. You will have very, very, very few hours from a principal's standpoint. The lion's share of this work will be from likely either a just licensed or an architectural intern that would likely do most of the CAD work associated with it. The project manager and or job captain would work on the Excel spreadsheets. They would work through the cost estimates, and then with the project manager basically just redlining the production from the job captain and the architectural intern, or the base architectural fee. So I would expect that this is a not to exceed fee. We'll have that discussion, and we have had that discussion with CTA Architects. They know that our expectation is we not exceed this, and their numbers right now are an estimate of what they think it's going to take to meet with staff, come up with a few options, put those options on paper, and then put some cost estimating to those options so then we can use that for future capital decisions.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, can I add one other thing? So the water portion of it was not included in that original plan. So that water building and that site design and evaluation is part of this, but it wasn't included in that first one. So it's a new portion.
Thank you. That helps answer my question. I appreciate it, Jeff.
Mayor Kling.
Yes.
One follow-up question. CTA does have engineering on staff. Will any of this evaluation consider forensic review of the buildings that are out there for stability, structural wise, or will it only be architectural?
Yeah, for all. Yes.
So they'll be able to provide forensic information on those buildings to see if they are truly sound and capable of readaptation to okay. Thank you.
Are there any further questions?
No, just a point, Mayor. It says there's I believe 7 different engineering positions. So I think that tells us that they're going to be a part of the inspection. So.
Just
Okay.
need clarity.
What is the will of the council?
Mayor Kling, I'll make the motion to authorize this work request for CTA Architects to provide this work, with knowing that it's a time and materials not to exceed amount of $48,233.85.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Bruce. Okay, discussion.
I wish we could go back to the table, excuse me, Mayor, I wish we could go back to the table and renegotiate some of these prices, but I think it's a little bit too late now. Would you say that? But
I think it is at this time a little bit too late, but even if it were not too late, a comment that I would make is it is the industry pricing.
Right.
And so it would be a little bit difficult. I think, and I think what it's going to come down to, it's going to come down to you guys being really good stewards, right? As you go through the process, use them wisely. Let's come in under budget. So that's going to be the charge. We're going to use it wisely. We're going to try to come in under budget, and that actually puts more work on staff up front because we need really good planning. And then when we hand it to them, we only ask them to do what we need them to do, not what we can do. So anyway, I think you guys hear that a lot from me anyway. And thank you for listening to all the questions.
Maybe you could send the two principals, architectural and engineering, on vacation during that time. Thanks.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Skog?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate your report. Thank you. Item 5.5 on the agenda is to authorize the Mayor and Public Works Director to sign a task order for scope of work for consultant Okay, this is with CTA, so I guess you can stand there. This is for the design services for the new restrooms at the street division. And I just want to say, those restrooms are seriously needed. And I'm so thankful that you guys identified a solution, because by putting them in the warming shed, they've got a restroom, but we've had, how many people sharing restrooms? It's been ridiculous.
30-some, wasn't it?
30, well, there was over 30 men sharing.
Must be all young men.
Yeah, like one?
Yeah. that
Yeah,
one
and then plus
bathroom
the one,
was
yeah,
raised.
it was not good. So,
So we are wanting to, Mayor's, City Council, we're wanting to make a addition that's permanent, and it was cost effective. We thought about bringing temporary facilities in, but we want to make use of the facilities that are there. We looked around, the warm shed made the best, it made the best sense. It's a big building. They do a lot of work there that they need to clean up, and it's a permanent solution, and we can use that warm shed as part of our master plan that we're going to be looking at too as part of this process. So this proposal includes the design, the construction management, and the construction of a bathroom in the warm shed. I'll stand for any questions.
Mayor Kling. So this is a bid set of documents, including mechanical, electrical, plumbing?
Correct.
Okay.
Also, I want to add, they do have to run utilities to the building, which increase the cost a bit, and we will, again, attempt to stay as low as we can on the costs, save costs as we move forward.
And Mayor, I'll make the motion to, that we approve this request as written. If you need it read, I will read it, but,
I'll second the motion unread.
it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Skog?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Brunner?
yes.
I'm going to push through for just a couple more real quickly. 5.6 on the agenda is an action item to authorize the Mayor and Public Works Director to sign the professional services agreement and task order for scope of work with Negotiation Services LLC for Middleton Road rebuild. This is Greenhurst Road to Roosevelt Avenue. Project in the amount of $65,500, time and materials not to exceed.
So move.
And I'll second that.
Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Levi?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Skog?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
I'm sure there are citizens that are very thankful for that to get done. Item 5.7 on the agenda is an action item to authorize the mayor to sign a task order for the attached scope of work with Paragon Consulting for Midland Boulevard and Lake Lowell Avenue project design in the amount of $89,000. Time and materials not to exceed.
I'll make the motion, Mayor.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, is there discussion?
Yeah, I would like to have some discussion, Mayor.
Okay.
So this is, in what I was reading, a roundabout or a light, is that correct?
Correct.
So what are they, so before that decision is made, or is that part of what is going to determine whether this should be a roundabout or a light?
I'm sure you, Councilman, remember the history of that intersection. It was originally designed as a roundabout. We were unsuccessful in getting the right-of-way necessary.
Right.
And so they changed gears and went to designing a signal there. That signal design is not complete. we will be, in the first part of this task order, will be an evaluation and determination on whether or not we proceed with a roundabout or a signal at that location. We will likely bring that options back to the council.
Okay, so we will have, at a later date, we will be able to decide that, because I'm not in favor of a light, but I'm all for a roundabout, so, okay, thank you.
We will have that evaluation and we'll bring that back to you.
And I will say, on roundabouts, I just had a discussion with some citizens, and it was very interesting. It surprised me what their comments were, and that was that where the roundabouts are actually costing us more today because of land acquisition, the citizens that I spoke with, there were about 6 of them, said they would prefer a roundabout, even if it cost a little bit more, because of the lack of long-term maintenance, right? You don't have the signaling issues and the traffic flow. And I found that so interesting, because I was thinking, well, maybe we need to default to traffic lights. I shared that with Tom and Jeff, and that was interesting to me because it wasn't where I thought we would be. But I just thought I'd share that with council, that we've had citizens that have said, you know what, it may cost a little bit more, but they prefer us looking at the roundabout solution.
But Madam Mayor, if I realize eminent domain can rise the cost, but otherwise, if there was actually no purchasing, roundabouts are less expensive, aren't they, than most lights?
If we had all of the right-of-way
That's
necessary.
what I mean. I understand that's a dream world, but, okay, yes.
Yeah. Okay, I believe there was a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Brunner,
Yes.
Levi,
Yes.
Skog,
Yes.
Haverfield,
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
We have 2 more action items before public hearing, and because we're so close, I'm going to work through them. The next one is 5.8 on the agenda. This is to award a quote and authorize the mayor to sign a contract for the Holly Street Pedestrian Improvements Project with Hess Construction in the amount of $46,300.
So move.
Second.
Are there any questions, or is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Levi,
Yes.
Skog,
Yes.
Haverfield,
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
And our last action item is to award the bid and authorize the mayor to sign a contract for the FAA AIP 31 grant construction hangar taxi lanes, at the Nampa Municipal Airport in the amount of $522,250 with the Idaho Materials and Construction pending the FAA funding. And
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, are there any questions? And we recognize this funding is FAA funding. Roll call.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Brunner,
Yes.
Skog,
Yes.
Levi,
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
So the remaining action items are actually come after the public hearings, and so it is 7:05 and time for our public hearings. So we have a number of public hearings this evening. Rather than saying, and I may say this again, but just so that everyone knows that a public hearing, we have the applicant present first, then we will have a staff report following that. After we go through that process, then we're going to open it up for public testimony. And have you all signed up on the sheets in the back to testify this evening? If you have not, I will ask if someone intended to. And so we will give everyone an opportunity to present for 3 minutes, and we will ask you as you come forward to state your name and your address. And then you'll have 3 minutes to speak to us, and then we'll be done. At the conclusion of the public testimony, the applicant will have the opportunity to come back with any closing comments, and council will have the opportunity to ask any additional questions. At that time, when that process is done, we will close the public hearing. When the public hearing is closed, there is no more opportunity for any comment from a citizen, because the public hearing time will be done on that particular agenda item. And so we do have a number of public hearings this evening, and then if it's your turn and you have a question, we're more than happy to answer it to help through the process. And do adjust the mic when you're speaking into the mic. It just helps us hear you. And especially for those that are online, that are listening, so that they can be sure to hear everyone as they speak. So our first public hearing this evening is item 6.1 on the agenda, and this is an action item, and it is an annexation and zoning to RS7, which is single-family residential, 7,000 square foot zoning district for the Gemstone subdivision at 3615 Southside Boulevard. This is for 16 single-family detached lots on 5 acres. and for 3.2 dwelling units per gross acre. And this is I won't go through the exact, unless I have to. Do I have to say it's on the southwest one half of the whatever? I don't. Okay, so it's on the agenda if anyone has any questions. And this is for Mason and Associates representing Lanco. And our applicant, who's our applicant this evening? Good evening, David. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Mayor. So David Bills, Landco Inc., and 3400 South Montego Way, Nampa, Idaho. Before you this evening is the request for annexation and zoning of a 5-acre piece, as the mayor has said. And as you can see from the map, it's bounded by RA on the west side and RS7 on the east side. Sewer is coming across the parcel of property from the RA with a easement agreement that would be dedicated easement to the city of Nampa. Utilities, water, and pressurized irrigation is in south side already. City is servicing that area. This is quasi infill, and so then you have county properties, 2 to the north and 3 to the south. It's a straightforward 16-lot subdivision that we're proposing, and planning and zoning was 8-0 on the affirmative of the plat, 8-0 on recommendation to you for annexation and zoning. The issues that staff has written about, we have addressed those issues that can be addressed at this point. We have prepared improvement drawings and submitted. We're fairly committed to this little community, and we think as we've been before you before, and we'll be before you again in 2 months, that infill is a good way to go. It's good use of resources that the city already has in play, and so that's where our focus is right now. Stand for any questions.
I don't think we have any questions, but we will have you back.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Christy, thank you for providing the staff report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Christy Watkins, planner with the City of Nampa. So this request is for the Gemstone subdivision at 3615 Southside Boulevard, southwest of the Ronald Reagan Elementary School. A decision for annexation and zoning to RS7 is required from you tonight. The property is not currently within the city limits. It appears from the aerial image to have one house and a shed that are proposed to be removed, but is otherwise vacant land. As stated by the applicant, the surrounding zoning to the north and south is still in Canyon County, and the properties to the east and west are within the Nampa city limits and zoned residentially, causing these county properties to be considered enclaved. The RS7 zoning designation is being requested for this property and is designed to accommodate low-density, single-family developments with 7,000 square feet minimum lot sizes. The comprehensive plan designation is low-density residential that allows up to 3.98 units per acre. The attached plat proposes a density of 3.2 units per acre with 16 buildable lots on approximately 5 acres. Nampa has determined that it is in the public interest to provide single-family housing opportunities as infill development, which is essentially defined by development of enclaved properties. Expressions of that policy are published in the Nampa's adopted comprehensive plan, as well as embodied in its decisions to date regarding similar applications. Engineering has not called for a traffic study on this property due to the minimal lot count, and as stated, the utility and emergency services are available to this property. So, in summary, the property may be annexed and zoned to RS7, and given the findings noted, this is certainly an entertainable request and is recommended for this property. All agency correspondence was listed in the staff report and attached for your review, and no other comments have been received as of this meeting. Should council vote to approve the requested annexation and zoning proposal, staff would recommend that council consider imposing the listed conditions of approval for this request, as well as any others that you may see fit to impose at this time. I will stand for any questions.
And seeing no questions, thank you, Christy.
Thank you.
So this is a public hearing, and we do not have anyone besides the applicant signed up to support, and no one signed up to oppose this project. Is there anyone here this evening that had intended to testify on behalf of this particular project? Seeing none, Would our applicant, do you have any remaining comments that you would like to make before we close public hearing?
We would just appreciate the affirmative vote.
Madam Mayor, Mr. Bells, what do you see the price of these homes? What would you expect?
I'm expecting somewhere between 300 and 400.
You sold me. Thank you.
Okay, with that, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Council discussion.
Mayor Kling, looks pretty straightforward to me, and I support the request. And so I would make a motion to allow the annexation and zoning request to RS7 for this property as presented,
Second.
with the recommended conditions of approval.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any additional discussion points? Hearing none, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Skog?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
David, we appreciate you developing and moving forward with infill properties is exactly what we want to do. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Item 6.2 on the agenda is an action item, and this is the vacation of a 10-foot wide public utilities, drainage, and irrigation easement within the Broadmoor Commercial Park, First Edition subdivision plat that runs along the west side. And I'm not going to read all of these, the west, the south, and this is also a vacation of a 5-foot wide public utilities, drainage, and irrigation easement along the east side and along the west side, all in the Broadmoor Commercial Park, First Edition subdivision south of Shannon Drive. The applicants state they're requesting vacation of the subject easements because the easements no longer exist and all the public utilities serving the property have been placed in alternate locations for Richard Evans, which is representing Ag Equity LLC. Is our applicant here this evening? So let's move to a staff report. Staff.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. Again, Christy Watkins, planner with the City of Nampa. The request before you tonight is approval of the vacation of a 10-foot easement and a 5-foot wide easement that are no longer necessary since the utilities it was reserved for have been relocated elsewhere on the property. The property is located in and completely surrounded by BC zoned properties. It has a parks designation in the current comprehensive plan, but that will change with the updated plan due to the redevelopment of the Broadmoor Golf Course area. The parcel itself has no history recorded with the planning and zoning beyond the original plat, which has those recorded easements from 1978. The area to the south was rezoned in 2017 from public to IL and BC. There were no utilities located in the 1978 recorded easements, and as this area has recently redeveloped, the right-of-way of North Broadmoor Way includes water, sewer, and water and irrigation lines are located to the south of the subject area. There were no agency comments received in regards to this request, therefore staff recommends approval of the requested vacation of easement. Should City Council vote to vacate the lands associated with this application as described in the attached documents, then staff recommends that Council impose the following conditions of approval, and that is to meet any outside agency requirements as building permits come forward, as well as any other conditions that you may see fit to impose. I will stand for any questions.
Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you, Christy. Is the purpose of this just to clear up the title and make the ease of issuing building permits?
Get it to go backwards. Yeah, so, Councilman Levi, this is so that they can place a building in that location without being encumbered by the easement since it's no longer needed.
Thank you.
Have you been in contact with the applicant?
I have not. We usually send out an email before the hearing to see if they're going to show up, but I don't believe we heard back from them.
Okay. And then I would suggest it's a phone call, not just an email. So just staff, we need a phone call to them because the council has mentioned they expect people to be here. With that said, it's a vacation of an easement. And so they may not see the need to be here just for a vacation of an easement, but it would be quite unfortunate if they were not under the understanding. So in that case, with the vacation of an easement, it's the will of the council, but thank you. Are there any further questions for Christy?
Mayor Kling?
Yes.
Just for a point of clarification, it's a 10-foot wide easement that's centered on the property line on the three sides, correct? So it straddles the property line 5 feet on each side.
So, Councilman Haverfield, why is this not working? Well, I just want to point. So on the west boundary and the south boundary, it's 10 feet.
10 feet on the property side that we're talking about? Because, and looking at it, and it's, of course, it's small, it looked like it was only 5 feet.
Right, and so the west and the south is 10, and then the 5-foot one is actually the one that straddles the property line on the east side.
Okay, so the only property that I had then to consider would be the property to the east and whether or not that property owner wanted to eliminate the easement, which I assume that they wouldn't have any problem with. If it straddled over, but it doesn't sound like it does.
I don't think it straddles that parcel.
Because quite often the easement is on both sides of the property line. In this case, it's not. It's
Yeah,
what
it looks like the property line's kind of over slightly on that piece to the south, and then this,
Okay,
not part of that plat.
so it's only impacting the one property owner. So,
Correct.
all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions for Christy? Thank you, Christy. Your report's excellent. I like your PowerPoints.
Oh,
Thank you very much. So this is a public hearing, and we do not have anyone signed up to testify for or against this particular project. Is there anyone here this evening that had intended to speak on behalf of this project? Seeing none, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call. Excuse me, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so council discussion.
Madam Mayor, fellow council members, I hereby move that the vacation of the 10-foot wide public utilities drainage and irrigation easement be granted as presented with conditions.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Skog?
Yes.
Our next public hearing is item 6.3 on the agenda. This is the vacation of the remaining 22 feet of the Greenbelt easement running through the east side of 1024 Augusta Drive. This is within an RS single-family residential zoning area. The applicants state they're requesting the vacation of the Greenbelt easement in order to locate an in-ground swimming pool on the property, and this is for Brian Crookham. Brian, are you the applicant this evening? I wondered why you got to stay tonight. Yes, good for
I
you.
thought you were bored.
Yeah.
Yes, my name is Brian Crookham, and we would like to put an in-ground swimming pool in our backyard. And we went through the permitting process and found out that there was this old 22-foot green belt easement that's prohibiting us from doing that, and it's not needed anymore, and so we'd like to have it vacated.
Perfect. Are there any questions? And seeing none, we'll have you back if we need to. Staff report. Norma, Rodney, hi.
Mayor and City Council, Rodney Ashby, Principal Planner for the city. I think we've got our clicker working again, so I'll go through this pretty quickly. As you can see, the requested action was to vacate the 22 feet of Greenbelt easement running through the east side of 1024 Augusta Drive. And back in, let's see, I think I had that in my staff report that the 10 feet had been vacated already. 10 feet of a 32-foot easement had already been vacated. The applicant's stated purpose, we would like to build an in-ground swimming pool, as he stated. Just some basic general information. The existing zoning is RS6. The comp plan shows light industrial, and the land use is currently residential, and the subdivision is Augusta. So specific information, there we go, there's the date. 1993 is when 10 feet of that 32-foot easement was vacated. We acknowledge that the micropath is likely not going to happen in this case. Just over time, this has been developed out, and we don't anticipate that occurring. The green belt appears to clip just the very corner of the property, or if it doesn't clip the property, it is really close. The asphalt pathway is right next to the property corner in that area. The greenbelt easement is used to ensure pathway placement is allowed and for maintenance. As was noted in the staff report, we didn't have a lot of concerns from anybody except for the Parks Department, who said that this was critical that they maintain some easement along the pathway on the northeast part of the of the property here. So they would like to keep 22 feet in depth running along that property line on the northeast side. And they had no concerns about the rest of this property, or the rest of the easement being vacated at this time. Applicable regulations, a public hearing fulfills the due process requirements for the state code for vacating right-of-way or easement. It's very similar to a roadway vacation of right-of-way. And again, the requested action is on the top. Staff recommendation is to approve the vacation of the remaining 22 feet of the greenbelt easement running through the east side of the property, excluding, though, 22 feet along the northeast property line abutting the Wilson Creek pathway. And I would stand for questions.
Mayor Kling. So lot 15 is affected possibly if they choose to come in and ask for the same request.
Yes, and that was the recommendation of engineering, that at some point we vacate all of that so that it's cleaned up.
Since this is not asking for both lots, is that something we can choose to do tonight? Okay. So then south of lot 15, is there any continuation of a greenbelt easement?
There isn't.
So it really terminates at the south boundary line of lot 15.
That's correct. When that subdivision went in down here, it basically eliminated our potential of putting that micropath in there.
Okay. Thanks.
Are there any other questions? Thank you, Rodney. So this is a public hearing, and we do not have anyone signed up in support of or opposing it other than the applicant. Is there anyone here this evening that had intended to testify on behalf of this application? And seeing none, Brian, as the applicant, do you have anything further that you would like to share? No? Council, do you have any questions? Hearing none, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Council discussion.
Mayor, if you please, I will make a motion to approve the vacation of the remaining 22 feet for the applicant, Brian Cookrum, with recommendation conditions of approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Levi?
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
To clarify, there was this concern raised by Parks about the northeast section. Just to clarify the motion, that part would or would not be vacated.
Recommended conditions of approval. I thought
Is it in the
that
conditions?
indicated that.
Is that what?
As recommended by staff.
Right. So we're okay with that?
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded, and it is with conditions of approval, the conditions as recommended, and so you guys have that, right?
Correct.
Okay. Roll call.
Levi?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Skog?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Perfect. Now you get to go home. Yeah. The next public hearing is an action item. This is the vacation of 25 feet times 2,103 feet right-of-way for Wilson Avenue. This is located approximately 2,615 feet north of Cherry Lane between North Franklin Boulevard and 11th Avenue North within the RS7 area and RS8 zoning districts. The applicant states that Wilson Avenue was never improved and is not in alignment with the existing and proposed subdivisions in the area for Heartland Townhomes Property Management. And our applicant is, remind me of your name, I'm sorry.
Kent Brown.
Kent. Brown.
Address 3161 East Springwood, Meridian, Idaho. So in 1894, this plat, Cortland Place was done, and there was a blank check written for a future road, trying to plan ahead like we all try to do. There wasn't any utilities granted with that, just right away. Since that time, in the last couple of decades, we've got preliminary plat approval, final plat approval for new developments that don't follow that particular alignment. And also, this is Remington Acres or something like that. And when it was platted, they didn't show the right-of-way there, but there's just a little tiny corner that was left that I guess if in our design and we were to keep it, we would have the right with that right-of-way to punch a road through there. But I mean, that's obviously with the new layout and trying to follow different land plans today than that was available in the 1890s. We're trying to get that right-of-way removed. And as Councilman Levi talked about, this was done at that time. State law requires that we go back to the governmental agency and follow that procedure to have this vacated. And we seek that approval. There's only 25 feet on the south side. There was never any right-of-way outside the plat to the north of it ever granted. So we seek that approval today. Do you have any questions?
And seeing none, we'll have you back if we need to. Thank you so much. Staff. Norm, thank you.
Yes. The applicant's pretty well explained the situation here. It's an area that is developing, and this little narrow 25-foot right-of-way is in the way. And it's not lined up properly for the subdivisions that are being designed there, and that's the reason for the vacation. The parties to the application, or the adjacent owners to the application that are listed there, have given their consent. They're listed in the staff report, and so they're agreeable to this and want to see the vacation to occur as well. Again, the right-of-way was previously annexed when the property adjacent were annexed, given the same zoning. There's no city utilities or facilities, street facilities within that location. And there's no negative effect from the vacation, except the positive effect is that they can coordinate a new alignment for whatever roadways are needed in the area. And, we have the correspondence from the, as I mentioned, from the consent to the vacation. The engineering division doesn't oppose the vacation, and Idaho Power doesn't oppose the vacation. Again, this process is what we need to get that taken care of. Any questions?
And seeing none, thank you. So this is a public hearing, and again, we do not have, I'm wondering what everyone is here for, so we're going to get that, and I apologize, because we do not have anyone signed up to, in support of or in opposition of this particular item. Is there someone here that did not get signed up? And I see a hand.
I didn't get signed up, Your Honor.
Okay. And go ahead and state your name and address, and then we'll start.
Donald Botsey, I'm at 7354 Alpine Drive. I'm in that gray section down there that touches that we're in a 2.5 acre lots area. And first time here, so I just have a couple quick questions, since they're developing the section just south of there. And my question, I guess, to you or to the planning or the person that wants it done is, why isn't this cleaned up when they get the permits to do like that section that they're now working on to the south of it on the western side of the line there? They're building there, they got construction going there already right now. And why don't they vacate that stuff when they're doing the planning and they're bringing it to you initially, and then they come back? Because it seems to me that it's like a home pinochle game, that oh gee, we got to do this now and this now. And I'm trying to look for some stability in the area where I live, and just seems like we changed at the whim of the builders that didn't do the planning up front. And I'm just trying to find out why it wasn't done beforehand.
I appreciate your question. Thank you. And we will see if there's someone here to answer that for you. Thank you. So staff, would someone like to respond to that? Thank you. Kent, we'll let you answer that. Is there anyone else that had any questions this evening or intended to testify? No? Thank you.
There's a fine line, for the record again, Kent Brown, 3161 East Springwood. After 30 years of doing this, there's different ways that vacations take place. One of the ways is to plat over them. So that question always comes up is, does this one count as we're platting over it, and does that make it go away? Versus going through a procedure. The state law has a couple of different ways that right-of-way can be removed, and easements have a totally different one. You go to the easement holders, get them to relinquish their rights. When they don't have any rights to it, then because it was platted, then you go through a procedure like this. But with platting, the discussion ends up being, and this was the surveyor's decision, telling us so that we do have clear title, is that because we're not doing the entire plat, now the old Cortland Place subdivision that was done in 1894 went from road, section line road to section line road, and that's off the screen. And from this point at the very north, all the way down to, I think is it Franklin? What's the one to the south?
Cherry Lane.
Yeah. So it was a large plat, and since we're only doing a portion of that, that's why we need to go through this process. So yes, we were aware of it sooner, but we need to have that done before we complete the final plat. The plat that he's talking about is we're under construction right here with Feather Cove. That is phase 1, and we're in that construction, and we want to have that clear title, as discussed earlier in the previous application, so that we aren't encumbered with that road. To me, this guy right here that lives in the corner, if we showed up and said, there's right-of-way there, he would have to allow us to punch a road through there, and that's what we're trying to avoid for the future. We're not removing the right-of-way that is on this parcel, and we're not removing the right-of-way that's on this parcel because, again, they're outside of our ownerships. And if they want to use those sections of road, they could still do that. They could punch a road in there and it'd be a cul-de-sac, but it's a single owner. It's very doubtful that they'll do that. And it really doesn't hurt them in their current state and in being kind of estate parcels. They would have been really surprised if we had maybe purchased the property to the north and say, oh, we're going to put a road there, and they've got buildings actually on that piece that are there. So this is just a cleanup, and hopefully that answers that question. It causes me to think about these plats. I've been a proponent for over 15 years trying to make sure that we don't put easements on plats that aren't needed. And many times we require on either side of a lot an easement. And we go, okay, we're planning for the future, but we're putting utilities in the front. We've gone from putting utilities in the rear where we needed to bring them across the street. The construction has changed from when we were first doing this. So now we go to easement holders. Idaho Power charges us $250 for them to say that they can relinquish a right when we know there's not a power line easement in there. But they have to relinquish it. CenturyLink is almost impossible to track down in the fact that you get sent to Denver or to Seattle, Denver, and Phoenix to remove them. And just to keep in the back of your minds, when we grant these utility easements, they are a blank check that if the house gets put in incorrectly and you need to move the property line, those easements are there and they need to be removed. So it makes it kind of difficult for the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Steph? I would allow a follow-up question, but you'll need to come forward. Thank you.
I guess, Donald Botsey, I still live at 7354 Alpine. I guess my question to the Planning Commission, since it's not marked on there, is the easement from Franklin all the way to 11th Avenue? That I would recommend that we do not vacate it, that we need every road we can get in this town.
Okay, thank you.
Because that's something, you know, if you sit down there at Cherry and Franklin for 10 minutes to get through that stop sign at night, you understand that you might want another east-west road. So I recommend that we do not approve it.
Thank you. So I'd like Daniel Badger, thank you. If you could come and provide comment.
Mayor, the Merriweather Park subdivision, which was approved back in the early 2000s, the county records do not, or the county parcel information that the county is who is responsible to maintain parcel information. They do not show that right-of-way within their parcel information, and so when this plat was brought in and platted, that was not known that was there by the city, and so there are lots platted within that right-of-way now, just north of that would be needed if that road were to actually be built, and so there are other parcels in that would preclude us actually extending a road through there. That is one of those things that previous councils, previous administrations approved, and we live with those things that are done prior to us. In addition, as I say, the county did not show that, and so it was not recognized at that time, and why that may have been missed.
So the fact that the county did not, it wasn't easily visible. So how did we find out now, and why was the process now versus then?
So the right-of-way itself is south of the quarter section line. The Merriweather plat was north of that line. This would have come up within the title work done by the developer for the Feather Cove and then the future Spring Shores subdivision over here. That happened, within recent years, not back when that happened.
But did I understand that when those were developed, they chose not to ask for the vacation of the easement?
Well, so as Kent talked about, there are a few different ways to vacate right-of-ways that are not constructed into roads. One of them being that you just plat over the top of those. Sounds like their surveyor, based on the fact that they are not platting over the entire roadway that would go from Franklin over to 11th, since they are not platting over that entire section, he recommended that they go through this process to vacate that rather than just platting over the top of it.
So and I know that we have a late night and a lot to cover, but it seems like a very interesting way to avoid vacation of an easement that you can just plat over something.
I believe the reasoning of the state code on that is that if you are platting over it, there's a public process that involves that platting. There are public hearings that are related with that, and so that would likely be the reasoning for not requiring a specific hearing for vacation.
Okay, so that would be the answer to the gentleman's question, really, is that it isn't that you can just plat over something. There is a public process to that, and evidently that public process has taken place prior to now.
Correct. On the platting portion of that, it's based on the surveyor that they are saying since they're not vacating all of it with the replat, they recommended going through this process.
Thank you for answering that question. Council, do you have any questions? Okay, hearing none, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Council discussion.
Mayor?
Yes.
I would move that we approve the vacation of item 6.4 on our agenda for vacation of the right-of-way on Wilson Avenue, case number VAC 000372019.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any further discussions? Hearing none, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Skog?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Thank you. Item 6.5 on the agenda is a variance to the City of Nampa zoning section 10.8.6, requiring a 6,000 square foot minimum lot size in the RS6 zoning distance for a substandard sized property located at 1104 East Clark Avenue. This is an approximate 75 by 75 parcel comprising approximately 5,619 square feet within the RS6 family, single-family residential zoning district. And this is the west 75 feet of the south half of Lot 5 and the west 75 feet of Lot 6, Block 81 for Kurtz Addition in Nampa. The applicants state that they're requesting the variance in order to locate a duplex on the property for Kevin Duffin, representing Floyd Mitchell. Is the applicant present? Thank you so much. And thank you for, I'm sorry, I'm just reading all this. Thank you for stating your name and address.
Madam Mayor, I have some pamphlets. Do you mind if I hand those out?
That's fine, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you.
So my name is Kevin Duffin, and I currently reside at 16789 North Wentworth Lane in Nampa. I own this property here, and it shows that there is a house on this cover page, but currently there is no house there. The house actually burnt down and was demolished, so it is a bare lot as of right now. The reason I'm here is the lot is just shy of 6,000 square feet, and in this zoning, it is required to have at least 6,000 square feet to build any dwelling on this property. So I am here requesting a variance in order to build a duplex on this property. And on the first page there, you can see the dimensions of the duplex that we are wanting to build with the required setbacks per Nampa City Code. And pages 2 and 3 are basically what the duplex will look like, as well as the layout and floor plans. And on the last page there is an aerial view of the property in the bottom right corner. And as you can see on the left-hand side, there are other duplexes and fourplexes that have been approved and are built and currently operational, highlighted in red, that are of the similar size of the lot that I am requesting. So basically, to sum it up, it's almost 6,000 square feet. I need a variance in order to build anything on this property. And as of right now, it is a bare lot, so.
Thank you so much. Council, do you have any questions? Thank you for providing the visuals.
Yes.
It's very helpful. Council, do you have any questions at this time?
Just one, Mayor Kling.
Okay.
As far as for parking, it appears that you have a single car garage for each of the units.
Mm-hmm.
Your second car requirement, or basically two parking spaces per unit, you're not asking for any variance as far as in the setback to be able to provide 20 feet in front of the garage as far as for a tandem depth?
No, not as right now, no.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any additional questions? Okay, thank you. We'll have you back.
Yep.
Staff.
Mayor and Council, Rodney Ashby, Principal Planner. Just like to start off by saying that some of the information for this application was very limited, and so we based it off of what we could find. This is good information that we've heard from the applicant today. So the request is before you there. The applicant stated on the application was to put a duplex on the property. You can see that the existing zoning is RS6. It's surrounded
almost entirely by single-family residential. There is some multifamily just a short distance away. I think they're duplexes in this section off to the east, but they exceed the 6,000 square foot minimum. And then there's some multifamily to the west, but the immediate area, surrounding area is single-family homes. The comp plan indicates it as a medium-density residential, and as has been stated, it's just under that 6,000 square foot requirement for construction of a building. So I thought I'd go through a little bit of history here. Outlined in red there is how it was originally platted. So it's those your typical 50 by 140 foot lots. The original, there was a capability to do a lot split on those old Kurtz Edition style properties that are 150 or 140 by 50 foot. So that was an addition of a property line there. Following that, and that in our code, it allows for two single-family residences when there's a lot split like that on a corner. It's pretty specific there. And then subsequently, they abandoned some property lines, and now you can see the property lines there showing where it's at today. So they did expand into one of those the neighboring platted lots, 140 by 50 lots, and that's the result of that. So applicable regulations, 10.8.3 of our code says that overall lot areas, lot width, and yard setback requirements for two dwelling unit style structures shall be the same as for single dwelling unit structures. 10.8.6 says residential property shall be a minimum of 6,000 square feet in an RS6 zone. 10.8.11 says 2 off-street parking spaces required for each dwelling unit, and one of those has to be covered for each dwelling unit in the RS zone. 10.24.1 says the variances shall not be a right or special privilege. Variances are not intended to allow something that others do not have a permitted right to do. They must be to correct a property hardship. I would argue with the testimony that the applicant has stated about the home burning down. That's likely a very good candidate for a hardship. Necessary findings from city code state that a variance has to show that a practical difficulty or unnecessary physical hardship exists, that there are extraordinary site characteristics, that literal interpretation of the code would deprive the applicant of privileges enjoyed by others in that same district, that the granting of the variance will not constitute a grant of special privilege that's not allowed to other people in that district, and then finally, the granting of the variance will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare. So staff findings, at the time it was unclear how the layout will allow for necessary off-street parking. They have some more flexibility since it's a brand new construction of a building. So there are options there. I would hope that at the time of a conditional use permit, which is necessary still in this RS6 zone, and which would go to Planning and Zoning Commission, that at that time they would have some kind of layout concept drawing for us to see how that parking would be done. At the time I wrote that, it was unclear what the hardship was. I understand it now. The request appears to not be consistent with the uses in the area for a duplex. This variance in this case could be granted for a single-family residence, or it could be granted for a duplex. But again, the request is for variance for the lot size, and that seems to make sense. We've received no correspondence opposing the project, and engineering stated the conditions there that you see. The existing utility services to 1104 East Clark Avenue running through 1112 East Clark Avenue be located and easement secured if the services are found to be running under the existing structure on 112. And then the driveway location spacing shall adhere to the city's access management policy. No parking shall be allowed within the public right-of-way without an approved variance. And the requested action is before you, and I stand for questions.
Mayor?
Yes.
Rodney, I'm looking at staff findings, and I just need you to clarify what you had said earlier. As I'm looking at the third paragraph, it says, if city council chooses to grant the variance, the council needs to find some valid condition of the property prevents the owner from enjoying the same privileges as those in the zoning district. And so I heard you say and agree with the fact that the home burned down, and that was information you didn't have. But the leap I'm trying to make is that create a hardship because something would be built on it, but what is proposed to be built does not match the surrounding area?
So, good question. The hardship could be that they wouldn't be able, even under current situation, they couldn't build a single-family residence. And so that could be a hardship. Granting other privileges, such as duplexes, that would be a concern that staff still has. And you could argue that the corner lot split, if it was just a regular corner lot split today, they could build a single-family residence. Without a CUP and without a variance to this code, they still couldn't do a duplex if they were to do a lot split today.
Follow up, please. But they would still have to come in for a variance because of the lot size, even if they were to build the single-family dwelling.
Correct.
Correct? Okay, thank you.
Are there any further questions for Rodney? Okay, so this is a public hearing. Thank you. We'll come back if we have further questions. So this is a public hearing, and the only person signed up in support was Kevin. And we have no one signed up to oppose. Is there anyone that had intended to testify that was not signed up? Thank you, and thank you for stating, as you know, your name and address.
Kerry McGoldrick, and I live at 1112 East Clark Avenue. And I see I'm listed there. He was just talking about how they would have to secure an easement to go through my property. Currently, the house that had been built there was, the sewer ran right underneath our house. And they didn't have a way of getting down to do a clean out in that sewer line. And so they actually dug a hole in my property and put a clean out for that sewer line, which is still there today. They didn't do that, they didn't get rid of that as part of the demoing. So there definitely would have to be some sort of an easement, and I'm assuming that if we're planning on approving a duplex to go in there, then we'd have to have we'd be talking about two separate sewer lines. So I would say from my perspective, it would cause a bit of hardship on me, considering if, I don't know if we can go back to some of those pictures of the property or not, but I'm assuming that the sewer line would probably go along the backside of the property, because it is in all the sewer lines are located in the alleyways, and so
Could you
can
point
see-
out your property?
Yeah, right there.
That's it, okay.
My assumption is that back where those trees are at would be where they would put the sewer line, and not do an easement across the driveway. Would be my assumption. I don't know how that goes because I haven't been approached by anyone about that. But you know, those trees are 40 years old, fruit-bearing trees. You know, we get bushels and bushels of fruit from those. So I don't know that I want to lose that for two sewer lines. I don't know if they would do both of them side by side or whatever. But my concern is, first, I mean, you can see how the original property was built right up against the line. So when the house did burn down, there was a great concern that my house was going to go at the same time because it was so close to the property line. There was not a setback there. And I can't even imagine how you would put a duplex in there and still have enough room. So I mean, the house that was there was a very small house as it is, and it took up almost the entire property and was right on the property line. So I mean, I guess he has some drawings and stuff of how that would work, but for me, I can't see that. And then as a property owner there, you know, I've lived there for 20 years, and, you know, I like to know my neighbors, and a lot of the neighbors have lived there. You know, it's an older neighborhood, so there's a lot of old folks, and everybody knows everybody. I don't know about changing it to more of a rental-based property. That would be my concern, is having people coming and going, and, you know, different families moving in all the time. There's not as much ownership there. And I guess the last point would be that they were talking about the multifamily units that were outside. Those are actually RS 7 or something like that. And looking at the plating, those are outside of our plating area. Thank you.
Thank you. And did you get your name again?
Carrie McGoldrick?
Carrie McGoldrick?
Yes, C-A-R-E-Y.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that, thank you, I see a couple of others. So thank you for coming and sharing your name and your address.
Hello, my name is Erin Field, and I am 616 South Diamond, so I'm actually the immediate north house of this property. So first of all, I benefit directly, my family and I benefit directly from the vegetation that he was talking about. So we also would lose from those trees being taken out. We also have a brand new fence there. That's a more immediate problem. Secondly, we do really enjoy a quiet, long-time owners. I think we're the youngest owners there. We've been there for 3 summers now, so 2 full years. But I think that a duplex would negatively affect that kind of feeling that we have there. So I would testify in opposition.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And I think I saw another hand.
Yes. My name is Edward Keith Andes. I live at 615 South Diamond Street. And I think this is not justified as a hardship to disrupt the whole residential area, to put duplexes in there. Peaceful residential area, I've lived there 15 years. He's lived there 20 years, and they have to rip through his property, right? And I'm just saying, this is called a hardship, and you have to bend the rules so much to even get that duplex in there. I do not feel like it is justified. Are the residents of our neighborhood who live in a peaceful, family-oriented neighborhood, and to put a rental in there, that is going to totally disrupt the whole makeup of how that neighborhood goes, because rentals usually have people coming and going, not living there, not investing in their home there, and so their lifestyles, I'm not saying anything about them, but you're going to say that lifestyle is going to change in that part of the neighborhood, and that is going to infect, because our whole area around us is residential, and I do not feel like it is justified hardship to change that for my property even, and how it might affect my value of how I live and my property and the quality of life in our neighborhood for all the residentials there, to bend the law for this you know, bending it, because this is going to have to be a call that you pull kind of heavy against to move the zoning, because when you change the zoning within a zone, that's a very heavy, vote to pull and change the complexion of the whole neighborhood. And I am opposed to it also because of the disruption that it is going to cause my neighbor over there, who I look over there and I see, like, those beautiful trees and the whole decor of that whole block there. It just all adds together the beauty of our neighborhood. And I'm just saying is I'm opposed to it, and I do not see it's justified.
Thank you. Could you remind us, say your last name again, maybe spell it for us?
It's A-N-D-E-S, and I live at 615 South Diamond Street.
Great. Thank you so much. We appreciate your testimony. Thank you. Is there anyone else that is here that had intended to testify on this issue? Yes. I think you know the ropes. Name and address.
I'm Jade Duffin, and I currently reside at 16789 North Wentworth Lane. And I understand the concerns of the neighbors. However, even with it, whether it's a duplex or a single-family residence, to be put on this property, we will still have to deal with the sewer lines that are currently there. So I don't think it's a matter whether it's a duplex or the single-family home. That's still something that's going to have to be addressed. And then as far as rental and a home is concerned, one of the part of the duplexes will be a home that my husband and I will be living in. The other side, what the intention is to have it as a rental property. So there will obviously be people coming and going, but this is an older neighborhood, so you do see other rentals. We have dealt with other properties in the neighborhood previous to this that are currently serving as rentals. And then it was mentioned also that one of the duplexes that was built is in a different zone. It is actually still in this zone. I know that's on page, I believe, 4 of your guys' pamphlets. And then the other ones that were labeled in the red squares are in a different zone, and I understand that. So I'm in favor of this passing, so.
Thank you for testifying. Is there anyone else that had intended to speak this evening? Okay, seeing none, this is an opportunity for the applicant to come back and provide response to the testimony that's taken place and answer any questions of the council.
Okay. It was mentioned about the sewer line, and as it being a duplex, only one sewer line would be needed. I know that was brought up, so 2 won't be needed because a duplex is still considered as one home. It's not a townhome where they're actually split property lines. As far as removing trees or anything like that, we would want to eliminate that as much as possible. So we would not want to eliminate any trees or anything. And we will work with the neighbors and the surrounding homeowners to hopefully get our own sewer access on that side of our property so we don't have to deal with any easements or anything like that. And that will be an architectural thing that we will deal with our architect and our surveyor for. This property is 2 blocks away from Northwest Nazarene University, and as we know, there is a lack of housing right now around that whole area, and because it's just 2 blocks away, it would be a perfect area, and there's plenty of rentals around this whole neighborhood, and it would be a perfect area for, obviously, my wife and I to live, and then have somebody else live there who is going to school, because it is a very high-trafficked area with students walking up and down those streets very often. So I would say that we would not be taking away from the community and the camaraderie between all the neighbors. We would be edifying and hopefully beautifying the neighborhood there and making it an even better place to live, because eventually that university, as well as everyone else, we will need more housing because Nampa is growing like crazy right now. So is there any questions?
Mayor?
Yes.
Sir, I appreciate your candidness in desire to save trees and to work with all of that as much as possible. And I don't know if we can, because then I need to ask staff for clarification if the trees would even become an issue or not. But would you be opposed to having something about the tree staying in a condition of approval?
I would not be opposed to that. No.
Thank you.
Okay, if there are no further questions.
Excuse me, Mayor, one more. And I know that, was it Aaron? Aaron Fields? They said they have a fence there now. Would that be removed, or would that be the same, would it be intact?
As far as the fence goes, we are planning on putting a brand new fence in, so we will work with neighbors to hopefully, if they want to update the fence, we'll be able to cover that cost, as well as provide fencing so that we can all designate our areas. And I'm also going to get the land surveyed as well, so that we all know property lines, because this area is very old and it hasn't been surveyed in however long, so.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So I have a question for staff, actually. And so, Rodney, as far as the access to the sewer line and if it's running in the back, so this is, I guess, yeah. But did you have something you wanted to share?
Yeah, just
so,
quickly.
Daniel, I apologize.
Mayor and council, I just want to emphasize one more time that this variance is a request for the size of the lot. It's not for whether it will be a duplex, allowed duplex or not, that will go before Planning and Zoning Commission, and they will have to have this discussion with the neighbors at that point. So I just wanted to emphasize that. That would be required for either single family or a duplex. They still need a variance for the lot size.
Can I ask, will the variance then for the duplex, whether it be a duplex or single family, will that come back before council, or will it be determined at the P and Z level?
So if you approve a variance today for the lot size, the only other entitlement they need to secure is a CUP from Planning and Zoning Commission, so it would not come back to the city council.
Okay, thank you.
But you could express your desire, and that would be passed on to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Thank you. And Daniel, regarding that sewer line, it appears that it goes behind, and so what is the likelihood of changing its location or whatever?
So I'd like to give a little history on these corner lot splits. Originally, this would have been one lot right here. This is about half a lot here. The other half would have been here. Yep, just like that. And so what happened on these corner lot splits, typically this is the older home. At some point in the past, the property owner here chose to split it and build a new home behind that between their house and the alley. Typically what happened was when they built this house, they built it right over the water and sewer line that served the old existing house, and they just tied into those. Oftentimes they added a new water meter for it, but they connected to the same sewer line. There's a few situations that I've run across that they have the same water line, and so the property over here would have a prescriptive rights easement to access the sewer in the alley through this property. What we typically do with those property owners when a situation arrives is we recommend this property owner go talk to this property owner, determine where the best location for a new line not running under the house would be, and request that they secure an easement from that property owner, so that in the future, if that line goes bad, there's a formal recorded easement for that. However, that being said, they do have that prescriptive right to still access the sewer over here. There are no sewer, water, or irrigation lines in Clark Avenue, so it has to go to the alley.
So is it, if they were to build even a single family back on that lot where one burned, could they access the existing water, or is it still functioning?
What we would recommend, and what we typically require on these types of situations, is that if the sewer is one where it runs under the existing building, that they put in a new sewer line not running under that building, as well as I did look at this, when there are 2 water meters there, oftentimes what they can do is they can either relocate that water meter up to next to where the new sewer line would go in and run a whole new line. That way they don't have any connections that may go under that building. That's typically something that's worked out with the adjacent property owner at the time they're actually going to construction before we issue the building permit.
Thank you for answering all those questions. Councilwoman Levi?
Thank you, Mayor. Daniel, so the new sewer line, is it going to go where those trees are? It's going to disturb the roots? That's kind of what we need to know.
So the new sewer line, Councilman Levi, could go anywhere along that property. So wherever is least impactful, the property owner can work with the adjacent property owner to determine where that sewer line would go to not impact facilities or to be the least impactful to facilities. If property owners, we have situations where property owner here and property owner here do not get along at all. That if they can document that they are unable to work together to reach an agreeable solution that we have in the past. You can see the property lines here are in red. The rest of this is public right-of-way owned by the city. We have allowed, in situations where they can't get along and can't work together, we have allowed them to take the sewer line for this property through the public right-of-way out to here. that would likely impact this tree, but that tree is in the public right-of-way, and so it's within the city's jurisdiction to allow it to be removed if necessary.
So a few follow-up questions on that. Because we are just talking about a variance for the lot size, and it would go back to planning and zoning, and they can grant the CUP, which does not come back to the governing body. We can express our concerns or our desires, but we cannot attach a condition of approval.
Well, certainly you could attach a conditional of approval to the variance. Regardless of whether it's a single-family dwelling or a duplex, it requires one sewer line, one water line, regardless. So that's certainly something. Looking at this, it's hard to tell exactly where the trees. It looks like there's a shed here. I don't know if that's a Stormore type shed that can be moved out of the way, and the sewer line could be brought up here that would not necessarily impact those trees, and then the shed be brought back. I would recommend that if you're going to attach that type of a condition, that it leave room for if there is not able to be an agreement reached between the two property owners, that it does not prohibit them from still accessing the utilities that they have a right to access.
And then my next question is, obviously something will be built there, whether it's single or it's a duplex. And is there any other type of zoning that would be better fit for that piece of property that would still fit into the surrounding area?
I'm going to hand you over to Rodney.
Mayor, Councilwoman Levi, so the question was whether another zoning would fit. Let me go back to the zoning in the area. I think this shows a pretty good indication that the zoning in the whole area right there is RS6. It likely is not a good candidate for another type of zoning.
And I understand about the being compatible with what's around it, but I just thought I would ask. Thank you.
Mayor, may I bring the applicant back
Yes.
up? Thank you, Mr. Duffin. And you do not have to answer these questions if you don't, because I'm going to get a little personal. I'm just curious, what's the reason you purchased this property? Was it in the family or what?
No, we actually ran by it and just saw that it was vacant because the house burned down, and we noticed it burned down, so we decided we might as well start a new family home there. And then my wife had the idea, why not make it a duplex in order to provide housing for the university that's right down
Were
the
you,
way.
and I appreciate that. Did you have any idea before you purchased that there would be a variance requirement?
We did not, no.
Okay.
We were hoping that it'd be kind of more simple than it ended up being, but we're trying our best. So.
Okay, very good. I appreciate your time. Thanks.
Yep.
Then clarification, Rodney, just one more go around. This has been already said, I know, but so all we're doing tonight is deciding on the variance. It has nothing to do whether it's a single dwelling or a duplex.
Correct.
And we really, if we okay this variance, we would have no really, we can put a few, I understand a few conditions, but we really wouldn't have a final say as far as what would be on that property.
That's correct, unless they appealed the decision by planning and zoning, and it would come back to you.
Mayor?
Yes.
Rodney, speaking of appeal, so during the P&Z process, are applicants and/or those who testify made aware of the appeal process, the time limitation they have, and how it has to be done?
At time of application, is that what you're saying?
When they're standing before P&Z?
Oh, yes. Lance McGrath is the chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission, and he, without fail, he goes over that process.
Thank you.
And the neighbors would be noticed at the time, obviously. How did you notice this? Was there a sign, one of our nice new signs out on this property?
So a
Okay.
variance doesn't require the public notice, but a CUP would. So when it goes back to Planning and Zoning Commission, it will have a big sign. The mailing would go out just like it did for the variance.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any further questions for the applicant or staff? We're still in the open public hearing time. If there are no further questions, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Council discussion.
Madam Mayor, I'll just make a couple comments. Boy, this is a tough one. I love the idea. I love the idea of living in one side and renting out the other. That's good business, being close to NNU. There is a lot of opportunity and a need. I do not consider this a hardship, though. I agree that it's not a hardship. So I'm going to have trouble, I guess, voting for that fact on this variance. What I would feel terrible about, though, is we have a wonderful young couple here that have made a purchase, and I'm not sure what the resale of that is if they can't do something with it. So I'm torn, but I don't think it qualifies as a hardship in what I see as the definition. So,
Point of clarification,
Yes.
hardship being what? You're not in favor of allowing a home to be built on it?
at this point in time, the variance is just for a home to be, something to be
Right.
built
Your
on that. Yeah.
substandard lot down to 50 whatever square.
56,
From
6'4".
6,000.
Yeah, but that's my struggle is we want something on there, but without this variance, it'd be difficult to.
Mayor Clean?
Yeah.
Yes.
I would just point out in the staff findings, it did state that the area of primarily single-family and nearby duplexes in the area exceed the minimum lot size and have obtained a conditional use permit for their use. So the duplexes are on larger lots than substandard lots. So I don't have a problem with the substandard lot. I think it's close enough, and the fact that there was a single-family residence on it at one time anyway, that I wouldn't have an issue with a single-family residence, but that's not what's being asked for here, other than just the allowance of the smaller lot size. So I wouldn't have a problem with that, knowing that it would go back before the Planning and Zoning Commission for a conditional use approval for a duplex if they were to allow it. But I wouldn't support a duplex on this lot, but a single-family residence, I believe, would
And
be.
then that's what Madam Mayor, that's what I also, but we don't have control of that.
Right.
However, I believe I understood that it may not be a condition of approval, but the council can make a recommendation to P&Z. Is that correct?
That's just a comment from city council that we would take to Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay. There's a lot of thinking going on.
Well, Mayor Kling, I think the easy solution would be, is anytime that one variance affects any other property, the answer is no. That's the way I look at it. And we have property owners that are here concerned. And I wish there was another alternative to this, because I think it would be a great location for another residence. So, but I realize we're only here for the 6,000 square foot minimum lot, so it's a tough one. I'm like Darrell Bruner here. I'm thinking, wow, difficult decision.
So I have another question, and that is for staff, and that is, if the applicant were to come back for a variance, but asking to put a single-family home on this property, that could happen, is that correct?
So,
Or, I know what we're voting on right now is just a variance.
correct. And although they have a stated purpose, that's not what you are voting on. So if you're going to grant a variance for a single-family home, it's the same as if you were granting a variance for a duplex at this point. It would go before Planning and Zoning Commission for a duplex. So the variance request today is just to be able to build something on a 6,000 square foot lot, or less than a
Less than.
6,000 square.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes.
And I believe, thank you for the clarification, I believe that's what we're getting hung up on, is the fact that there was a home there before, and we're just talking about the variance for the 6,000 square feet. Something to be able to be built there, but not specifically what can be built there. We obviously have our preference, and we believe that, I believe we have had good discussion and proof that it shouldn't be a duplex, it should be another single family. But we have to keep in perspective, all we're talking about is the 6,000 square foot lot. There was something there before, so are we going to allow this to be a buildable piece of property or not?
Thank you for the clarification. I think what I'm hearing from council, and then it would be time for a motion, whichever direction. I think what I'm hearing is that we do have and understand and have a heart for the applicant and the purchase of the property and the ability to replace a home on that property. If I understand what I'm hearing from council, I can't speak for you, but what I'm hearing is that we're not favorable toward a duplex. And as far as the testimony goes, I think the testimony that we heard this evening is concerns over the trees, but the greatest concern is a duplex where we're creating a rental environment when you have families here. Unless I'm misstating what I understood, the greatest concern was over a duplex sitting on that property.
Mayor Kling?
Yep.
Just for clarification, Rodney, the conditional use permit would only be if they were to seek to build a duplex.
That is correct.
Otherwise, they would have approval to build a single-family residence based upon our decision tonight.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification.
That's good.
Very good clarification. Okay,
Mayor
so
Kling,
what is the
I'm ready to make a motion
Okay.
then. I believe that the request for a variance for the substandard lot size is appropriate in this case, and I would make a motion to allow the variance with an understanding that if the applicant were to choose to try to build a duplex, it would be remanded back to the Planning and Zoning Commission for their conditional use approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. You did not mention any recommendations from the council on that. Is that intentional?
I guess a strong recommendation then to the Planning and Zoning Commission and our remanding back to them that we do not support a duplex on this property.
And okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
A discussion, point of question is, the trees, the other property, the fence, are those out of are those being deleted from or are they included in your motion?
I think that's back to the property owner development of how they're going to access the utilities in the alley is that the east? They would have to work that out with the adjacent property owner. Obviously, the intention is that the utilities would not be placed underneath the building that's already there, that they would be routed around it, whether it's to the south or to the north, along the north boundary line. And I would assume at that point, would an easement have to be drawn up by a surveyor?
Typically on these types of things, a surveyor is not required. Typically, it's just a written easement, sometimes with a drawing showing where it's located, and that they have rights to access and maintain it.
So would that be incumbent in this case on the
We would
corner
deal
lot
with
owner?
that with the building permit. When they apply for one, we would require that documentation from them.
Okay, does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Stog?
Yes.
Everfield?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you all for your comments, for being here this evening. It's appreciated, and I'm sure you're ready to go home. But thank you. Yes, it's been almost 2.5 hours. We will take a little over 5-minute break before we step into the last public hearing. Thank you.
Rodney, can I ask you a question, please?
Bruce, good idea. Thank you.
I noticed the look on the.
You might need more than 5 minutes from now.
Excuse me.
I burned mine out so bad. I heated up my dinner real fast. It was still burning. Okay, while Victor's walking up here, our last public hearing of this evening, actually two, is item 6.6 and item 6.7. Item 6.6 is to consider the increase in water rates and fees for operations, maintenance, and systematic replacement of supply and infrastructure in order to continue to provide continuous and reliable utility services. 6.7 on the agenda is to consider an increase in water hookup fees for systematic replacement of water infrastructure to provide continuous and reliable utility services. I believe we're okay in combining these two public hearings. The PowerPoint, I believe, Tom, is one that covers both.
That's correct, Mayor.
Okay, so we will be doing, combining both of these public hearings into one. And Tom, thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor, Council. So Jake and I are going to split up this presentation. He's going to go over the numbers, and I'll go over some of the reasoning on how we got to this point. What we're proposing tonight is a 9% rate increase that's based on the prior past fiscal year's cost of service analysis looking forward. So we're following the plan that has come before council before. And I just want to make it clear that this, the rate increase that we're asking for is to maintain the pipes, infrastructure we have in the ground today. Developers, as growth happens, the developers are required at their own expense to put in water lines to support their own development, and then we will inherit those after they're built and maintain them. So this is to maintain our system. That's what this rate increase is for. So what our goals are based on the cost of service study is a little over 3 miles of domestic pipeline to replace annually. And with the funding that we have today, we're getting around 1 mile domestic pipe replacement. We've come up with this 3 miles per year based on the amount of time that we get service out of that pipe. And so some of these pipes, these are a couple examples of some pipes we pulled out of, the one on the right is from downtown from last year. If you recall, we had to do a change order to replace that pipe, and it was, so these are the types of work that we're looking for this rate increase. Another goal is to continue to provide safe drinking water. So in the staff report today, we talked about Nampa and our water, and it's clean and safe. Well, it has to be good. It comes out of the ground clean and safe, but we want it to continue to be clean and safe by going through a pipe that's in good condition. And then also we want to, hold quality water standards and maintain transparency on how things are funded. Okay, so Jake's going to come up and talk about the numbers.
So Mayor and Council, just a quick historical review of kind of what led us to this point. In 2015, we had a cost of service study taking place, and the recommendation that came from that, just judging by the revenues that we were collecting and the projected expenses that we were showing in the next couple of years, were a series of 3 18% increases starting in FY16. We got that the first year in FY16, and after that we were able to just adopt the 9%. So that led us in 2018 to do an update to the study just to see where we need to be to get to our final point where we're able to just do slow increases by CPI going forward. So that's what we had FCS do last year, which led to the decision that we brought before you last year on, did you want to do one front-loaded increase of about 23% or a series of smooth rate increases going forward. That is what you guys and the Board of Appraisers selected. So that leads us to this point. So we're on our second year of a 7-year plan to get our rates back to where we need to be in order to kind of just have that glide slope of maintaining CPI. So we are proposing a 9% increase in FY20 effective October 1st. And that does come out to about a $1.38 increase per month for the average household. Here is just kind of a quick snapshot of more of the details of what those rates consist of. Of course, depending on where you live and your meter and how much you use, your rate's going to differ. But this is the effect of that 9% increase. So if you have any other questions, I'll take them now, or I'll turn it back over to Tom.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
for either one of you, at one time we started this years ago, I was told the oldest pipe in Nampa was so many years old. So what's the oldest water pipe in Nampa, would you suppose? What's the age? Early 1900s?
This, the one that, I don't know if it shows, but there's, that pipe on the left actually has a date on it. I thought it said 1923, so somewhere around that.
Not so old, huh? Yeah. So, all right, the need is there, we're aware.
So Mayor, Tom, how, as far as the type of pipe you're putting in, what's the longevity? What are we looking at?
Well, the newer pipe is all PVC plastics, with generally a little longer life on that than these metal.
Longer
ones. So
life
it's
than the 1923?
Yeah,
Okay.
so, 50 to 75 years.
Unless there's an earthquake or something else to
Right,
disrupt it.
if there's installation problems, they could break sooner if it was installed on a rock or the compaction.
And I think, hopefully I know the answer to this, but as far as where we're putting in this 3 mile pipe per year or whatever, we're making sure that there's not gonna be any road work in the near future. I mean, we're really planning where we're not tearing up a road or something and a year after, okay.
Yes, Councilor Bruno, so we're still following the asset management cycle. We go around in our zones. It's a 7-year rotation. We go through and we do all the utility work first, and then rotate down to the next zone, and then behind that becomes the paving and the striping.
I just think it's important for the citizens to be aware that you guys are planning this out. So that's why I mentioned it. Thank you.
We also have a policy, and I'll just make a comment, that we've talked about since I've been here, and that's a one-dig policy, and we did that on 3rd Street. That if you're going in to redo a road, when you're in there, you'd get everything done, all at one time. And so we need to plan accordingly, so it's just one-dig policy when we go in. If we're doing a full road rebuild, it should all get done.
Yes, that's correct, Mayor. Thank you. So we always like to provide comparisons. So in your packet, you can see with our fiscal year 20 rate increases we have sewer and water in there. So you recall we approved the sewer increase, so that's that number at 33, 31. And then the other number is the water increase we're proposing today. So we're still lower than most in the valley and across the state. So we're always keeping an eye on how others are doing as well, because we want to maintain good quality, low-cost service. So hookup fee, historically, we asked, what should we do with the hookup fee? And last year, and the Board of Appraisers also approves that we look at the hookup fee annually. We're proposing a 6.09% increase to the hookup fee, which is basically the construction cost index that we've been using. The cost of materials have gone up a lot lately with all the growth. So this is if you recall from a couple of years ago, the CPI was around 4, but now it's at 6 for this go around. And so here's our fund balance. Just want to note that fiscal year 20 was the last 9%, and then our model shows us start doing less percentages over the next few years, so 8%, 8%, and eventually down to the CPI, which we had listed at 4 at that time. And so you see that our fund balance, we're also using our fund balance and bringing that down to try to reduce the amount of rate increases that we're asking for here. So we know that asking for a rate increase is a difficult decision. It's difficult to ask. You know, we analyze our data and we look for the best ways to make the best use of the funds. This is an average increase of less than $1.38 per household. We'd like to, as we talked about with our plan, do these 9%, and then start backing it down to the CPI over time to help maintain the cost of construction materials. So can I answer any questions?
Mayor Kling? Oh,
You know what, Councilman Rodriguez, we'll start down here, then we'll go that way.
thank you, Mayor. Here's a question that I was asked today about water increases, is that we've had our population has gone from about 87 to 100,000. Our subdivisions have increased north and south and west. So new development, new residences. And so which increases our revenue for the city of Nampa in terms of structure, infrastructure, and more revenue for our water. Why are we continually asking for an increase when we should have more revenue now?
Councilor Rodriguez, well, that is true, that it's helping, although it's not happening at a fast enough rate for us to catch up to all the maintenance that we deferred in the past.
Okay, but with new development comes new infrastructure, so we don't have to worry about that. That's what the developers are paying. So that revenue is a plus, it's a profit for us in the city of Nampa. So that money that's used in the last 2-3 years from new development, we shouldn't be having to catch up to anything, I would think, right?
Well, it's like I said, Councilor, it is coming in. It's just not coming in at the rate that is going to reverse the rate increase at this particular year. So, but it is certainly helping. And that's something that, you know, when we do our next cost of service study, we will analyze that and make sure.
Okay, that's the only question I had.
If I could make comment on that, you know, I've pondered that same question and really thought about it, but the one thing that I've realized that affects both our infrastructure as it relates to streets and to water is that Nampa was one of the largest cities in the state for a very, very long time. Our footprint was quite large. And where, like Meridian, for example, was a small little town that consisted of a downtown and then it grew a little bit. They have grown massively, but it's all new infrastructure. For us, we have one of the oldest, not the oldest community, but we have a much, much older community, but it was a very large community in our footprint. So we've got miles of older pipes than what maybe a Meridian does. And I think and so I pondered that because the same way as streets. We've got a lot of streets that are older versus a Meridian, for example, that had a much smaller, that has put in new. So Councilwoman Levi, then Councilman Haverfield.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilman Rodriguez and then our mayor also kind of brought up one of my points, but to take it a little bit to a higher level is, do you see it coming in the next couple of years that we're going to be able to level out because of the additional revenue that's been coming in?
Yeah, so we were already projecting to start decreasing the percentages. Starting in 21, you see it's 8, and then 22 is 8, and 7, then 4.5. So in order to update this, and Jay can tell me, we got to do a cost of service study again. And we can relook at those numbers, which we can and we will. And we want to do that for all of our programs. The other thing that I want to just step a little bit more into this is coming up in the budget presentation that we're going to do at Public Works. So we've been looking for ways to fund our infrastructure, and one of the ways that all the research that we did with impact fees for streets, we did learn that you can do impact fees on utilities as well. And what that means, we don't know 100% yet. So we did put a little bit of money into the budget to ask us to start looking into that more, because it's not as simple as it sounds, because you've got to have a defined CIP, You gotta make sure, you gotta define what your level of service is today. You cannot use that impact fee to, increase the level of service. So you got, it only, right? And so there's all these things and steps we gotta look at, but that could be another source of income. So you've got, now you have 4 sources. You have developer installed infrastructure, you have rates, you have hookup fees, and then you have impact fee. So what that could do is, you know, maybe potentially change the rate. The rate, we don't need as much in rates anymore because we have this, but we have some thinking to do, and we would like to do that. And that could be help answer some of your questions that you have as well.
Well, 3 years ago, when this first came before us, my first night in the office, I remember asking about if we could do the cost of service studies, because when would it be that we could actually level out and back off on the increases that we were finding out we had what we needed because of the projected growth at that time. So I do appreciate that. The other thing I just wanted to comment or ask a question on is when we're comparing to the cities surrounding us, have any of the other cities had the wastewater issue that we have where the fees have gone up incredibly for the residents?
Well, we've heard, when we went to the IC conference, they talked to some other cities, and yeah, they were looking at bonds, and same thing. So there's some of the cities have money in savings. They have enough money in savings, they don't need to do a rate increase, but they are all doing construction.
And Greenleaf had considerable rate increase, and their wastewater rates are far higher than ours as a small community.
Thank you.
Councilman Haverfield.
Just back to the combined monthly comparisons that we looked at. Suez Water in Boise, they provide water for lawns as well as domestic use. They use the same water source, do they not? Okay. Whereas the numbers that you're showing us does not include irrigation, correct?
That's correct.
So do you know approximately how much, so it's not a true comparison. So are these other numbers, do you know as far as Bend, Meridian, Pocatello, these other cities, if they have a separate irrigation system that like we have here?
I know that Meridian has a separate irrigation system. I don't know what their rates are. And as far as the other cities, Caldwell, they have an irrigation system as well, though it's not all pressurized.
So the true comparisons then would be Meridian, Caldwell, possibly Coeur d'Alene. As we're looking at a comparison across the board, it wouldn't be with Boise or Bend or Idaho Falls, it appears.
We can certainly look at putting that on there and do some more research. I think that probably the reasoning was that these are the higher dollar ones.
Mm-hmm.
The irrigation, it's not, the rates aren't quite as high. So, Jake, do you want to have something?
I will say that when FCS did this study, they did look at irrigation and domestic separately. So I do not believe that these rates or these comparisons include irrigation. This is strictly the charges they have per the 7 CCF of water that they use domestically.
So as an example, Suez Water, again, they use it to water their lawns along with drinking it out. So it's their drinking water as well. So we have a separate irrigation assessment along with our water assessment. So when we're looking at a comparison, we would need to lump that back in to be a true comparison with Boise.
Yes, like I said, the only caveat would be this is looking at the same exact amount of usage through every city. So whether it's combined or not, we're still only looking at that one amount of usage compared to the bill that they're paying for that amount. So it would still be, whether it's combined or not, this is how much they're using, and this is the bill they're paying for that month.
Okay, that's fine, and that's fair. You got potable water being used to water lawns or not in Nampa. We don't. So when we look at our number here, the potable water cost is what we're talking about tonight at 16.74. So, and I'm just trying to make sure that we're all aware that We're not, it's not apples to apples because we have a separate irrigation system, and that's what's unique about Nampa and special about Nampa, so.
And I'll also note that these comparisons are their FY19 numbers, not their FY20. So if they have had any increases this year like we have, those are not represented in their numbers at this time.
Okay, thanks, Jake.
Are there any other questions at this time? Is that the conclusion of your
That's the
presentation?
conclusion, yes.
Okay, are there any other questions at this time? Seeing none, this is a public hearing, and we actually only had one person. Now, this is a combined public hearing for items 6.6 and 6.7 on the agenda, whether it be the domestic water or the water hookup fees. We only had one person signed up, Johnny Bench. Are you still here? Sarah, Johnny? He signed up in support of, but I don't have anyone else. And I don't have anyone signed up to testify in support or in opposition to these. I see Mr. Hubert Osborne coming up. Sharon, are you next? No. Greetings.
Greetings, Mayor, Council. It's good to be seen again. My name's Hubert Osborne. I reside with my wife at 4199 East Switzer Way. There are a couple of, these are more policy and the way they're implemented. The 700 cubic feet, which is stated as the average cost of water in Nampa, is not accurate. That is the lowest that you can get away with. They don't, so it's not average. I think if you look at the statistics, the average would be higher than that. Not a lot, but it is higher. So I think that needs to be corrected. The other thing is Mr. Haverfield brought up a comparison between Boise and Nampa because irrigation rates are included in our, are not included in our water bill. And one of the reasons irrigation rates are so high for the residences in Nampa is because of this brilliant scheme that was passed 2 or 3 years ago where the paved over portions of the city did not have to pay irrigation taxes. And that cost was shifted to the homeowners. I've argued extensively that that is the forerunner to us losing some of our water rights because the Water Resources Board says if you don't use it, you lose it. Wait until Suez Water wants our water rights. We're not using all of our irrigation water. In fact, the former Public Works Director has stated that 40% of our irrigation water just goes down the drain. Now, the stormwater issue is going to be brought up again. And I'm just waiting for that because I'm saying that the stormwater people that are causing the problem need to pay for it. And that is the paved over people. So I'm going to argue that our subdivision, which collects all of their irrigation water, shouldn't have to pay an extra stormwater fee. The ones that should have to pay the stormwater fee are Walmart, First Church of the Nazarene, all the other asphalt people in town. So that's the impact fees, the hookup fees, which can be called impact fee. I know, it's up. Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you very much. Hubert, we always appreciate your comments.
Actually, I have a question for Hubert.
Okay, Hubert, you can't sit down yet.
He's allotting you more time.
He's giving you more time.
Actually, when you said about the 700 cubic feet, that was a low number, and it's actually higher? What do you mean by that?
Well, on my water bill, and that's just me and Charlene, and we were pretty conservative, ours regularly runs 1,000 cubic feet, or however, whatever it is, it's like 30% higher. You guys can correct me on this if I'm wrong. It's not the average. 700 is not the average, which is what is presented.
So what is the average?
Well, I'd have to look it up, but it was in that cost of service
Yeah.
study, and it was not at 700 feet. In fact, the developer suggested raising the minimum to 800 feet. Well, that didn't pass, but it would have been closer to the average. These are policy decisions that don't make a great amount of difference, but I think the way it was presented was not accurate.
Well, you were on the Board of Appraisers, and you looked at all these numbers and either approved or disapproved the new rates. Are you basing your no vote or yes vote by the miscorrect information, the misinformation here now?
I have trouble with the hookup fees. I think they're too low. A political decision was made 2 or 3 years ago to artificially lower them, and they are not back where they should. It's a great step in the right direction to put this on an inflation-adjusted basis. But in my opinion, it's starting from too low a rate, and I've argued this with the city attorney, who may not want to comment. But where was I at?
And I think you answered that question, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, is there anyone else here this evening that wanted to testify in support of or in opposition to the 2 proposed rate increases? I think you're thinking out there. Okay. Sharon, thank you. Sharon is also a member of our Board of Appraisers, and so hearing from you is appreciated, your insights. Thank you.
Sharon Harris, and I live at 1612 South Miller Way in Nampa. And first of all, before I just give my opinion, I just want to say thank you to each one of you for serving in a public office. I know it's not sometimes an easy thing to do, but I do appreciate your willingness to put yourself on the line many times. I served on the board, and I had asked one question to the staff that changed my opinion about raising rates. And my question was, do we have to raise rates today to help improve the infrastructure because something was not done years ago? And the answer was yes. And so I'm thinking, okay, I am in favor of raising the rates. I am a taxpayer, and I want to be in a city where I know that the infrastructure is safe, and it is excellent. And I think we have a ways to go, but I wouldn't mind increasing rates if I could see improvements that are needed to be made. We just got a text from our HOA, and it's a strange HOA, where some of us are connected to city water, and others get it from the golf course. Well, their pump is going out again on the golf course, which means big bucks for part of our HOA to pay for. So I'm thinking, I'm glad I'm part of the HOA that has city water, and so that's why I'm in favor of the rates increase if it means protecting the citizens. Thank you.
Sharon, thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. I think as mayor, I do sit on the Board of Appraisers, and I had to leave this meeting early before this vote, and I had shared with this group my concern over raising rates because we listen in the mayor's office to the citizens that are so seriously impacted by continual increases. That said, I have charged our team and I understand the need for the improvements, and I agree, because if we kick the can down the road, what our kids are going to inherit is not good, and we have done that a little bit, and so we need to make sure that we cover the rates. But just for the council and for the community to know, Tom Points and his team hears from me, in fact, the entire city does, on a regular basis about fiscal stewardship. And that if we are increasing rates, we need to reflect stewardship, and that we're using those funds wisely, and that we're not asking for a rate increase so that we can spend more money. That's not the way it works. And Doug and I have already talked about it, and we will be doing, and I appreciate Doug's skill set and his ability to come in and do the analytics on behalf of the city to really look at the cost benefit ratio and where we are. Where if we can do certain exercises to where, rather than having to outsource to a consultant to pay tens of thousands of dollars to hire someone to tell us what we're doing, I want to avoid that because we've had a history of, I mean, there's a lot of expenses that go through. And I know Doug supports me in this process of the stewardship and making sure. So I just want to assure our citizens that we're not making increases in a frivolous fashion, that our team is, they understand the cost, and that we're going to try to be really good stewards. And I think that's important to know. And we'll be doing more work as we move forward. Jake.
One point of clarification, it's confusing because we deal with bi-monthly rates, but we're comparing everything to monthly rates. The 700 or the 700 cubic feet that we're talking about as an average is monthly. So on our citizens' bills, it would be 1,400 cubic feet bi-monthly.
Thank you.
Clarifies it.
Yeah.
So are there any other questions, actually for staff, or, and I just make sure there wasn't anyone else here that intended to testify? That said, we are in a public.
You have one.
Thank you. Come on up. You almost missed it. Almost closed too soon. So thank you for sharing your name and address.
I have a little finger, so I decided to hold it up. Mayor and council, I respect all the work that you do, and sometimes avoided the possibility of doing some of this work myself. However,
Please remind us, go ahead and say your name and
my
address.
name is James O'Halloran, and I live at 6680 East Greens Drive in Nampa. And the one thing I have to ask is, when we have taxpayers having different rates go up all the time, and we don't see, we're a visual society, we don't see changes when those new taxes are increased. And I wanted to ask a question to the council. Do you think the Nampa water that we drink is some of the best you've ever tasted? Let's really be honest here. Is it some of the best you've ever tasted? Is it?
A lot better than Marcy.
Okay, I'm not asking better than, I'm just asking, you know, but really.
I think most of Nampa, Mayor, have some type of, a lot of folks filtering out their refrigerator, or they put it on their faucet, or whatever the case is, even in Nampa. So
Yeah.
I'm not saying the majority, I'm just saying a lot do.
Yeah, and we do, in our home, we couldn't tolerate the taste. And we have folks come into our home that think it's the worst water they've ever tasted. And so, I'm just saying that I think that people that are planning, they need to decide, if they're gonna charge taxpayers more money, we need to see some changes in the taste of the water, or something, or some realization of why this is being increased. And don't you think? I mean, to me, that's just simple. Okay, thank you.
I appreciate your comments. I tell you what, we need to take note of his address, which we haven't noted, because Nampa actually did win a contest. I mean, it was and Tom, you could speak to it, where we had some of the best tasting water. but it may depend on where you live. So Tom, would you like to speak to that?
Sir, Mayor. Yeah, so we did, it was a couple of years ago, we submitted some water samples here in a regional contest, and Nampa did win the best tasting water in the northwest area. And, I think that chlorine is probably one of the things that people sometimes may taste. I mean, that varies some depending on location. But I have to say, we use a lot less chlorine than other cities. That's probably why we did get the award. Chlorine is one of those public safety things that it's not really avoidable to put. You have to put some in there, just so you don't have a bacteria outbreak and problems in your pipe. So it's just, we try to keep it minimal. And it's just public safety.
So Tom, does the water vary from area to area based on where that water is coming from?
Yes, Mayor. So we've got quite a number of wells across the city, and each one of those wells has a chlorinator in it. And, they're different. They are a little bit different rates. They're not all exactly the same because geographically, the water coming out of the ground is not the same in every location. So we have water in multiple aquifers as well. So some of these are shallow or deeper wells. So it depends a little, and that's why we have the operations crew. They go out there and they do all their testing. They're out there daily testing and monitoring sites, make sure that everything's okay. We've got alarms on all our systems, so we know if something's going awry. So we have all the modern technology to do the best we can to provide that for the customer.
Thank you for answering that question. Okay, so unless there are further questions or discussion, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Council discussion. And remember that this is both action item number 6 and number 7, unless you prefer to separate the motion.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Fellow council members, I move that we approve the increase in water rates and fees as presented following the recommendation of the Board of Appraisers, and also the increase in water hookup fees as recommended by the Board of Appraisers at 6.09% increase.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Levi? Yes. Haverfield?
Yes.
Skog?
Yes.
So now we're going to go back to new business items. We have 3 action items that were pending based on the outcome of our public hearings. The first one is 510 on the agenda. This is the first reading of an ordinance for annexation and zoning for the Gemstone subdivision at 3615 South Side Boulevard. And this is for the 16 single-family detached lots on 5 acres for 3.2 dwelling units per gross acre for Mason Associates representing Lanco.
An ordinance determining that certain lands commonly known as 3615 South Side Boulevard, Nampa, Idaho, comprising approximately 5 acres, more or less, lay contiguous to the city limits of the city of Nampa, county of Canyon, state of Idaho, and that said land should be annexed into the city of Nampa, Idaho, as part of the RS7 zone, declaring said lands by proper legal description as described below to be part of the city of Nampa, Canyon County, Idaho, directing the city engineer and planning and zoning director to add property to the official maps of the city of Nampa, Idaho, repealing all ordinances, resolutions, orders, and parts thereof in conflict herewith, providing an effective date, and directing the clerk of the city of Nampa to file a certified copy of the ordinance and Nampa map of the area to be annexed with Canyon County, state of Idaho, and the Idaho State Tax Commission pursuant to Idaho Code, section 63215.
And this is requested to be passed under suspension of rules.
I'll make the motion to pass preceding ordinance under suspension of rules as read.
Second?
Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Levi? Yes. Skog?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Item 511 on the agenda is an action item. This is a resolution implementing the increase to water rates and fees by 9% effective October 1. And that it's a resolution. There's nothing to read. It's just adopting the resolution as provided in our packet.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Brunner?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Skog?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
And item 512 is another action item, and this is the resolution for implementing the increase to water hookup fees by the PPI West Index rate of 6.09% effective January of 2019. And again, this is the last one.
So moved.
Or second?
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Skog?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Now we'll move to unfinished business. Item 7.1 on the agenda, this is to consider the approval of the marketing agreement between the City of Nampa and the Utility Partners private label for the marketing of the service line insurance to the city water and sewer customers. This came before us actually quite some time ago, and actually I moved slowly in getting information to Mark Hilty. Mark Hilty has since taken a look at the language of the agreement as instructed by the council. And Mark, do you have any comments regarding the language of the agreement?
Not specifically, Mayor, just in general. What I attached as part of the packet after the agreement, you'll see some examples of this company's advertising material. And I thought that would be helpful for you to understand what it was that they were going to do. The city does have the right to approve or deny the format for the marketing. And assuming that this is all approved, then they pay on an annual basis the city's dues to the National League of Cities. That's really what this is about. You know, they are using the city's name as a way to contact the customers about these service line warranties that would provide coverage for portions of the water and sewer system that are private and that are not covered by the city.
So, and my intention as mayor when I brought this forward was really had to do with the number of calls that we got in our office and people not understanding the responsibility of these service lines to their homes. There's absolutely no, there should be no pressure for them. It's really an offering that we provide to our citizens if they would like the insurance or not. And it's just, and as much as anything, I think what it's going to do is it's going to raise awareness of the fact that we don't provide, right, that they own the lines once they're inside their property line. So I guess my question would be, what would be the will of the council?
Madam Mayor, fellow council members, I think this went forward on a split vote. I don't remember what the vote was. I respectfully opposed it then, and I do now, because we're still giving a stamp of approval to a private company when there are competitors that exist out there, and I don't want my government endorsing one over the other. We're picking a winner. I appreciate your comments, Mayor, but I will make the motion to not approve this marketing agreement.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Nope. And I'm happy to resolve it. That way we can move on. So, I mean, I recommend it. I think it's a good idea, but I also respect the will of the council on it. And so with that, we'll have a decision. So if there's no further discussion, roll call.
Rodriguez?
So clarification, we're voting is to oppose this, so that would be a yes, correct?
Right.
All right.
I'm sorry, to oppose is
Yes,
a no.
kills it. Yes, kills it,
When-
if that's clear.
So a no would be opposite of you, Councilman Scott, as far as what you have motioned. Okay.
Correct. So if you say yes, it dies.
Yes.
There we go. Okay, so roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
No.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Skog?
Yes.
Okay, so 7.2 on the agenda. This is an action item for the first reading of an ordinance for annexation and zoning to light industrial at 58 and 0 North Kings Road for construction of storage units. A combined 3.87 acre portion of the south half of a certain, I'm not going to read it all because you will. This is Cody Lane for Trek Investment Group.
An ordinance determining that certain lands commonly known as 58 and 0 North Kings Road comprising approximately 3.87 acres more or less lay contiguous to the city limits of the city of Nampa, County of Canyon, State of Idaho, and that said land should be annexed into the city of Nampa as part of the IL zone, declaring that said lands by proper legal descriptions as described below be a part of the City of Nampa, Canyon County, Idaho, directing the city engineer and planning and zoning director to add said property to the official maps of the City of Nampa, Idaho, repealing all ordinances, resolutions, orders, and parts thereof in conflict herewith, providing an effective date, and directing the clerk of the City of Nampa to file a certified copy of the ordinance and map of the area to be annexed with Canyon County, State of Idaho, and the Idaho State Tax Commission pursuant to Idaho Code Section 63215.
And it is requested that we pass under suspension of rules.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any further points of discussion?
Mayor, excuse me. I was just noticing on this that it was, the hearing was last September, and here we are in July. And this is coming forward. What was the delay?
I would have to ask staff if they know why.
We're on
This is the
7-2?
72 North
Right.
Kings Road.
storage units. Typically, when there's a pause, we are trying to get it cleaned up, those that have been in a waiting hold, and it has to do with all the papers coming in so that we can move forward.
It just seems like
It's a long time.
length of time.
Mhm. Yep. Okay, are there any further discussion points? Okay, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Skog?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Item 7.3 is an action item, and this is the first reading of ordinance for annexation and zoning to RS6 at 904 West Greenhurst for Blake Wolf for connection to city utilities and construction of single-family housing, and this is also requested to pass under suspension of rules.
An ordinance determining that certain lands commonly known as 904 West Greenhurst Road comprising approximately 1.92 acres more or less lay contiguous to the city limits of the City of Nampa, County of Canyon, State of Idaho, and that said land should be annexed into the City of Nampa as part of the RS6 zone, declaring that said lands by proper legal description as described below be part of the City of Nampa, County of Canyon, Idaho, directing the city engineer and planning and zoning director to add said properties to the official maps of the City of Nampa, Idaho, repealing all ordinances, resolutions, orders, and parts thereof in conflict herewith, providing an effective date, and directing the clerk of the City of Nampa to file a certified copy of the ordinance and the map of the area to be annexed with Canyon County, State of Idaho, and the Idaho State Tax Commission pursuant to Idaho Code Section 63215.
And what is the will of the council?
Was there a request to pass under suspension of
Yes.
rules?
Mhm.
I'll make a motion to pass this ordinance under suspension of rules and with a question after I get a second.
That's it.
Is the reason why there isn't an ordinance number, is it based upon whether or not it's approved before it's given an ordinance number?
Yes. It is.
Okay, thank you.
Bruce. I'm sorry, Councilman Scott.
Thank you.
Councilman Skog was the second to this one. Okay. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Skog?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
So right now, I will say we have one that has two parts, 2, 3, 4 more of these. So we are cleaning up the reading of ordinances, so we're going to be patient because we have quite a few to go through. So 7.4 on the agenda, this is an action item, and it has Part A and Part B. And this is the first reading of the ordinance for Brownstone Estates subdivision at 1220 West Karcher Road, and representing Providence Properties. And this is a 14 fourplex lots for a total of 56 multifamily dwelling units. There is a zoning map amendment associated with this for approximately 25 acres. And the zoning map is an amendment from RS 8.5 to RP for approximately 2 acres. And we also have a modification of annexation and zoning development agreements between Quantum Investments Realty and the City of Nampa. So, and I assume you're going to be reading everything.
Yeah, it's all one
Yes.
ordinance.
Okay.
An ordinance enacted by the Nampa City Council to modify those two annexations and zoning development agreements to which those certain parcels of real property commonly known as 12203 West Karcher Road, Nampa, Idaho, comprising of a total of approximately 29.60 acres, more or less, are subject to described in ordinances numbers 3771 and 3772, recorded on February 8th, 2008, as instruments numbers 2008006946 and 2008006947, records of Canyon County, Idaho respectively, so as to make modifications therefore relating to legal descriptions, conceptual plans, and conditions of approval to match a newly proposed site design and layout, directing the city planning director to alter the use and area map accordingly, providing RS7 and RP zone designations for certain lands commonly known as 12203 West Karcher Road, comprising a total of approximately 29.60 acres, more or less, determining that said zoning is in the best interest of the citizens and consistent with the comprehensive plan of the City of Nampa, Idaho, rezoning said property from RS 8.5 to RS 7 and RP, providing for a recording, instructing the city engineer to designate property as RS 7 and RP on the official zoning maps and other area maps of the city, providing for severability, providing for an effective date, and repealing all ordinances, rules, and regulations and parts thereof in conflict herewith.
And it is requested that we pass this under suspension of rules.
So move as read under suspension of rules.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Levi?
No.
Skog?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Item 7.5 is an action item, and this is the first reading of ordinance for vacation of a 10-foot by 70-foot long portion of the Lone Star Road right-of-way located on the west side of a property addressed as 561 Lone Star Road.
An ordinance of the City of Nampa, Canyon County, Idaho, vacating a 10-foot wide by 70-foot long portion of that certain right-of-way commonly known as Lone Star Road, adjacent to 561 Lone Star Road in Nampa, Canyon County, Idaho, directing the city engineer to alter the use and area map accordingly, providing for an effective date, providing for severability, and repealing all ordinances, resolutions, orders, and parts thereof in conflict herewith.
It is requested to pass under suspension of rules.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Skog?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
7.6 is an action item. This is the first reading of ordinance for zoning map amendment to RA suburban residential to RS6 for 0.7 acres off of Smith Avenue for the Smith Avenue Hideaway, and this is for Susan Schindler.
An ordinance of the City of Nampa, Idaho, providing an RS6 zone designation for certain lands commonly known as 714 Smith Avenue, Nampa, Idaho, comprising approximately 0.70 acres, more or less, determining that certain zoning is in the best interest of the citizens and consistent with the comprehensive plan of the City of Nampa, Idaho, rezoning said property from RA to RS6, providing for a recording, instructing the city engineer to designate property as RS6 on the official zoning map and other area maps of the city, providing for severability, providing for an effective date, and repealing all ordinances, rules, and regulations and parts thereof in conflict herewith.
And requested to pass under suspension of rules.
So moved.
Discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Skog?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
And our last action item is the first reading of an ordinance correcting ordinance 4412 for corrections to legal descriptions.
An ordinance of the City of Nampa, Canyon County, Idaho, vacating that certain alley right-of-way located within the Nampa Industrial Corporation First Edition subdivision running north off Industrial Road, directing the city engineer to alter the use and area map accordingly, providing for an effective date, providing for severability, and repealing all ordinances, resolutions, orders, and parts thereof in conflict herewith.
And this is also requested to pass under suspension of rules.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Skog?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Section 8 on the agenda are our pending ordinances, which has reduced down to 4, which is awesome. And Section 9 is an executive session. So at this time, I would stand for a motion to adjourn into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 74-2061J to consider labor contract matters authorized under Section 67234.5A, and that is 74-206A, 1A, and B Idaho Code.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Brunner?
Yes.
Levi? Yes. Skog?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
And we will be back, but most of you will not be here, I'm sure, when we return. So thank you for being here this evening.
I know.